Good morning, everyone. I want to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, home of traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu and Dakota peoples, the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 in Treaty 3 territory. I want to welcome everybody to the Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 Executive Policy Committee meeting. And I'm pleased to be joined today by members of the Executive Policy Committee and members of our city staff as well, including our clerk's department and our interim CAO, Mr. Sherwood Armbruster, who's here, and members of the public service will be joining us as well. To begin today, I want to ask for a motion on the previous minutes to receive them. Councillor Duncan, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Ask Councillor Brawadi for a move to suspend the rules to add several things today.
All right. My first suspension of the rules is to allow Councillor Eadie to speak in delegation, to receive as information Councillor Santos' submission. We have 3 addendum items for the EPC agenda. And then we have the reports from every SPC but Water and Waste, as well as the report from the Governance Committee.
It is moved. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Our first delegation today is Councillor Gilroy, Daniel McIntyre Ward, to be heard with respect to reports number 6, 12, 14, and 15.
And if you allow me, I'd like to speak to 4 as well, and 1 and 2 if I get time, because I've got a lot on the agenda. So, and I know you got lots of delegates. So. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and my council colleagues. First, I'm just going to kind of go in my own order here because I want to make sure I touch base on everything within my 10 minutes. So first, I wanted to talk about the analysis on costs associated with adopted of a living wage. Of course, I'm very much in favor of this, so I'm hoping that in favor of this. I'm hoping my council colleagues are too. One thing that I did want you to maybe ask the administration when it comes to the report is in the last collective agreement, there was $1 million for a wage adjustment for low-income workers, and I want to know if that cost was associated with the overall data that they gave us in the report, because that would actually substantially create even less money that we would need. Because for our own staff, it's just $1,800,000. So, you know, if that wage adjustment wasn't calculated, that it would only be $800,000. So I'd like to kind of know that stuff. So anyways, hope that you support that. I think that that's really good work, and I'd be happy to be a living wage city, and I think that that would be really, really exciting. So now I'm going to move on to the proposed grant intake review process. So I really want to thank the EPC for actually getting rid of, I think you've talked publicly, Mr. Mayor, on getting rid of any kind of cuts, which I'm very, very grateful for. One of the things that I wanted to consider is right now in governance, we're kind of looking at equity, the strong mayor model, and trying to figure out how we can bring some equity into, you know, what we do at City Hall. So what I'm hoping that I'm proposing to you is that instead of having the chairs of the Standing Policy Committee sit on this committee, is you to have 2 inner-city councillors and 2 non-inner-city councillors, because I think that that would bring a lot of equity. There is a lot, I think, of some issues in other areas that other councillors might want to bring, you know, some of those grants into, but there's also a lot of grants that go into the inner city as well. So I thought, you know, those 4 councillors working kind of collaboratively together, 2 coming from, you know, each coming from very, very different parts of the city, would be a really good fit to having an equity-based approach to our grant process. So I'm hoping that you consider that, because I do feel if the standing policy chairs are sitting on that committee, it is an extra power over finances at the city. And so I hope that you consider that. And I also do want to just ask a question that maybe you can answer for me. I just want to make sure that the only grants that you are considering that are going through the process is that listing of grants and payments subject to the intake process. And I'm really hoping that you're not looking at the other detailed list. And then my other request under that is I'd like you to actually take out of the grants process the General Council of Winnipeg Community Grants, Community Center grants, athletic field maintenance, and the Winnipeg Board, Library Board grants. I want them taken out. I think that they are a part of the city and they shouldn't be within the community grants process. Even though our community centers are something that we all treasure, they are our assets, and I want them to be controlled under our regular kind of budget process. So I'm really hoping not to see them, because if there's any kind of cuts, and plus the control over that, I think it should be in the regular process that we deal with our budget. So I'm hoping you'll consider taking those out, and no cuts to the grant process, and of course, making a balanced and equitable approach to who sits on that committee would be a huge benefit for all Winnipeggers. So hope you consider my recommendations. Now, another item that I want to speak about is item 14, remote participation in council seminars for council members. So a lot of the times when we're not in our roles here in committee, like you are today, we are out in our communities. I know some councillors are getting new offices that are outside the city council. So it is a lot of work back and forth sometimes to come into council if you're out in community and you're doing meetings in the community and you have to drive back into City Hall. Now, I'm kind of lucky. I'm probably one of the closest ones, but I know a lot of my other council colleagues, like Councillor Lukes, would have a lot farther way to drive in to come. I just think it really worked out really well when we were doing it during COVID. And I think we got a lot more participation of councillors. I think when you're looking at times, people would be able to put it in if they could easily access it from wherever they are. And so that's what I'm hoping we get here today. I know that sometimes there's been issues around privacy, but we have an integrity commissioner. We have codes of conduct that we have to meet. So I think that I want our public service to have faith in us, that we can have a council seminar and be adults and be able to do that on Teams or Zoom or any kind of fashion. I think that we would get way more participation, and I think that they're an important part of our learning process here at City Hall. So, because I was told I wanted to participate in one, I couldn't make it back in time, and I was told no, that I couldn't. So I'm hoping that you consider this recommendation, because I think it's important for all of us to be able to have access to council seminars. And of course, item number 15 is establishment of a tri-level agreement for intercity revitalization. So what I'm asking is actually a lot of what I think the mayor is probably interested in doing. I know that on the agenda for public work, property planning, we were talking about like taking over buildings from residents that just wanted to hand them over, which I think is a really positive thing. Within the inner city, we're seeing so much boarded up vacant buildings. But here's the thing, as a city, we need help. We cannot do it alone. And our inner city areas are really, really struggling with a lot of fires, vacant derelict buildings, and the costs of demolishing these things. And so we need support. So what I'm hoping for is that we get a tri-level agreement to really look at kind of like we did with the core area initiative at one time, where all levels of government were putting in funding. We can kind of establish what we would like that to see. I know with boarded up vacant buildings, I think would be one, and the dismantling of buildings. So of course, youth recreation for crime prevention has to be something that we're deep diving into. You know, we're looking at the addictions and mental health. We have a whole new slew of kids that are coming up, and we want to try to make sure that we're doing what we can to keep them out of crime and those issues that arise from getting into crime. So a core area initiative revitalization project that would kind of meet the needs where some councillors feel, you know, this isn't within our jurisdiction. We could ask those levels of governments to put them finances in to kind of that we need to do a better job here at the city to manage some of the important issues that we're managing. You know, basically on behalf of those levels of government that really it's their core responsibility, right? So kind of I'm hoping that they can put some finances towards dealing with some of these complex issues that I think the city is being kind of left with. And I guess the other things that I wanted to talk about is item number 4 on the water and waste. Of course, the consolidation of garbage collection. Of course, I do support the motion that's going forward. I want to thank Councillor Mays for working on this and ushering this in. Now, one of the things that we did with a deep dive on why we can't consolidate garbage is because really we have no in-house garbage service, so we rely on Public Works, who has all the garbage trucks and stuff. So that's why we can't really do a consolidation of garbage. And so when we took a deep dive, we were learning, wait a second, there are some challenges to this if we don't have our own in-house service. And of course, we know that cities all over Canada do have at least one part of the area in-house. So I'd like to see us move forward. I think it might solve some of our other issues when we're talking about the correlation of garbage collection in different areas, whether it's parks, parks responsibility or Public Works. We need to have our own trucks, and I think we would find we'd be very busy. So I wouldn't be worried about us having our own vehicles. I think they'd be well used, especially when we're doing now the encampment cleanup and stuff like that. So, so I hope you support that. And then I guess lastly, I just wanted to talk about, I got very few minutes. So lastly, I just want to talk about the need for a little bit more collaboration around addictions and mental health under the encampment and cleanup and all that. Councillor Luke's made some really good comments in the paper the other day. And, I think that as a council, we have to sit down and really have a deep dive in how we're going to move forward with encampments. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilroy. You moved quickly on on all of those. Appreciate that. So
Yeah.
are you aware, because I have to pose this question.
Yeah.
Item number 12, the grant intake process. Very likely we'll do an extension of 30 days on that.
Okay.
To have further discussions about it. So
Perfect.
we need to do some more work. So that won't,
Thank you.
if everything goes according to probably what I think it will, there'll be nothing passed today. We'll do an extension on the grant intake. So
Thank you.
thank you for your presentation. Good. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Okay, our next delegation is Councillor Orlico from the River Heights Ward, to be heard with respect to item 10 and item 11 of the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development.
Hi, councillors. Thank you, EPC. Thanks for, well, you had to let me speak, so
Good.
appreciate that.
Good morning.
Good morning to you all. So today I'm here to talk about 2 items. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to speak at the P&D meeting due to a doctor's appointment. I tried to get a layover, but that didn't work. So I'm here today to kind of jig up my plans a bit, but now Hazel, the director, has all the information I was going to present at that meeting, and she has that now. It would be nice to be able to talk about it a bit more in public, but I'll have that chance at a later date. But I'm here today. So what am I here today for? I'm here today to talk about 2 motions that I put forward that are relevant to the Housing Accelerator Fund, and also just to our commitment to infill. So first one. Has been some councillors that have reached out to me to talk to that, and I appreciate that all. I think the mayor's office did, but no one else has from the EPC. But regardless, Councillor Mays and I talked a little bit. The policy framework. So first one is, there is an opportunity today. There is an opportunity for both motions. One is the opportunity, as we're looking at the 4plexes citywide, I said, well, why aren't we looking at other things as we're doing that? If we really want to be committed to the housing, and I am worried about reaching our targets, and i.e. not getting our funding levels. So if we really want to look at other areas, and we're already looking at the lands for the 4plexes, why can't we look at maybe duplexes or other options that could be possible in that? So I thought the opportunity was there because the work has already been done. It wouldn't be that much bigger load, and I have talked to the director about this. She can speak for herself. But so this isn't saying go ahead and do it. This isn't saying, all it is to look at it. Again, people get a little too excited to say, well, you're saying this has to happen. No, I'm saying let's look at the options. Is there options in when we're looking at 4plexes, including which will be all of River Heights and Fort Garry. So I'm not excluding ourselves. It'll be for all areas of the city of Winnipeg that are being looked at regarding the federal mandate for the 4plexes. So again, it's just to put a strategy together to come back to council to review that and to see if we want to go forward. So that's the first one. The second one is a fee. Again, it's not specifically an impact fee. It does relate to the fact of growth. I think there is an opportunity for an impact fee, but again, I don't care if you want to call it the butterfly fee. I don't care what you want to call it. But as I was doing my research on this, I was quite astonished to find out that actually so I'll speak just River Heights Fort Garry Ward. You know, I wasn't too pleased about taking the community's voice away from the decision-making process, but again, that's council's will. We went forward with that one. But I was quite surprised when I was going through all my research, and it was very difficult, that there wasn't really an financial impact statement available regarding what would those fees be reduced by? What will developers save? That's where I first started. So it actually works out to be about 20 grand a permit development application, so 20 grand. So I go, okay, so maybe that's a fee we can do, because I know the mayor has talked about it, and I respect the mayor very much, so we want to keep it cost neutral. So that may be an opportunity to keep a cost neutral fee. It won't impact the developers. It'll have the $20,000, maybe less, I don't know. But again, that's why the motion is to come back, have the department come back with kind of some ideas. So it was a cost neutral approach. But as I was going through that cost neutral approach, I also found out LDR, Land Dedication Reserve, and LOR, they will be impacted. Now, how much? I'm still trying to figure that one out, because the department had no idea yet. They didn't even actually think about this, it sounded like. I'm not sure if somebody else in some of the room had thought about it, but I haven't figured that out yet. But it's a significant impact on the LDR. So not only we are having an issue about, in my opinion, taking the voice away, we're actually going to reduce the amount of money mature neighborhoods get. This won't apply to all neighborhoods, only ones with the rapid housing initiatives in it. So councillors in other areas, they probably don't care much because it won't affect them, but it will affect definitely River Heights Fort Garry. We are going to be losing LDR just because you cannot collect LDR unless you have a rezoning or a subdivision. Now, again, I don't know about corridors, how that's going to work yet. We haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen malls yet. Fourplexes I could take a good guess at. So I guesstimated some of them, and Hazel now the director has that, and she's going through that to see if she can give me some more information. But again, it's another opportunity that we could do a fee to reinvest in these neighborhoods of growth, to preserve our LDR. So we aren't doing, because again, we all know LDR is the #1 tool that we use to fund our parks. I did my parks budget this year. Every one of my projects on the parks list are all funded through LDR. Now, there's no city capital budget. It's all LDR money. From a Marshall Park, we have 2 wading pools that I'm redoing. Well, we got $45,000, I think. I'm still trying to figure it out. But the minimum cost is going to be $115,000. That break that's there, it has to be made up by LDR. I'm not going to leave an empty building, an empty hole in the middle of my neighborhoods, so I'm going to have to use the LDR to do that. Again, I'm okay with that, but again, it's because I have some funds. Now, again, by maybe not knowing, maybe not doing due diligence, I don't know what. This was not known to me, and I don't read anywhere in any report that, yes, you take the accelerator fund money or the rezoning, but also you should know you're going to lose just some of your LDR. I don't think that's really, especially don't think that's fair, especially for mature neighborhoods that really need to be reinvesting their aging infrastructure to all of a sudden now have less money than, nothing against anybody else, but the suburban councillors who will not be impacted at all by this. Maybe they'll get impacted with a fourplex, don't know yet. But again, it will have a definite impact on mature neighborhoods. And as I really believe that these rapid housing changes will have a severe impact, good and bad, to the River Heights Fort Garry ward, it'll have a very significant impact on River Heights Fort Garry. We're really going to, I haven't figured out, somewhere around $1 million. That's my guesstimate right now. It could be $1 million, it could be $3 million, somewhere in there. I'm still going to get those numbers and hopefully have that for council. So again, I'm not asking to do something. I'm not saying do my way or the highway. I wanted to have the conversation with people. I wanted to say, let's talk about this again. It's an ideal, opportunistic time for us to be able to go forward. We have one side, we have already the work going on. We saw how fast the corridors and the malls came out. It's possible with the consultants already in town, we could do it. We could just look at policy-wise, I'm not sure how you can do a fourplex as of right, and then say you can't do a triplex or a duplex. I'm not sure how that policy framework works. It doesn't to me, but maybe someone can explain to me one day why it's not okay to do a duplex or a lot split, but it's okay to do a fourplex. I just don't see how that works. But again, that may change as we go through the process. So again, I've made my concerns known to the department, and we'll see where that goes. But the same thing, I agree that these are tough times, but at 20, we know Ottawa. I heard also people say, oh, well, you know, the minister, the housing minister can be very mad if we do a development charge. Well, he may. I don't work for the minister, but I also know Ottawa did do a development charge. They didn't get any money taken away from them. They got their development charge, $50,000 a permit. So I'm saying it could be less than that even. It could be cost neutral. But we need to find a way to, I agree, to increase the number of residential infills we're having. I like the idea. I know apartments are really where the number game starts, multi-unit buildings. That's where you get a lot of units quick. But I'm talking fourplexes, triplexes, duplexes, lot splits. They should be beyond just the mature neighborhoods. So those kind of, and again, I may be wrong, and there may be some very good reasons why that shouldn't happen, but all I'm asking for is to come back with reports. I'm not saying do it. We can have the debate. It could be honest, transparent. We can actually have more analysis about what are those fee reductions that could be used to offset any type of charge, and what will be the LDR impact and LOR impact for the city of Winnipeg. I think that's quite important to know. I'm quite surprised we don't know it yet. That may come through finance. I've already sent a message to Councillor Bawadi about that, and I'll be meeting our new CFO, because I believe it is important. If the city is going to lose or revenue is going to go down, the PD, the Property Development Department by $8 million, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to use general revenue? Well, that's going to impact us all. Or are they going to reduce staff? Well, I brought that up with the department. That doesn't sound like a good thing to talk about. So I don't know how we're going to get that shortfall. And we could also just say, well, don't worry about it. We'll worry about that later. Well, I'm worrying about it now. This is the time, the opportunity is now to look at both of these and going forward. I have talked to Lanny over at Home Builders. He has some different views. He didn't say he's totally against the idea, but he's open to the conversation. So I'm hoping that if they're open to the conversation, other people are open to the conversation, we as council can be open to the conversation. So that's all I'm asking for today. I am, like I say, though, I find it ironic here. We're talking about saving the grants for our intake process, but on the other side, we're going to be cutting the LDR grants. So the balance is a little off for me right now, and I hope we'll be able to address that going forward. But again, I was pretty shocked to find out the impact of the LDR. I knew going for the fee would be difficult. I know the mayor's position. I respect it. I don't agree with it, but I respect it. So I knew it would be difficult, but I was shocked to find out that the LDR was also taking a hit. That really should have been, I'm not sure the director or the chair, someone should have brought that through the report system, and I'll be looking into that later on. So that's why I'm here today. I hope to get your indulgence just to have the conversation. That's it.
So thanks, Councillor Orlikow, for the presentation today and delegation. Notwithstanding what happened specifically, how we vote specific to item 10, the development fee motion, again, because we have to frame it as a question, I share concerns about the LDR, and so I believe that there should be a way to make sure that that remains whole. I don't know how we could do that, but I certainly would like to see that. That's not a new fee, that's an existing charge, so that's nothing new, but to make sure we find a way to protect that, ensure that that is still levied, so that those funds can come in, I think is an important thing. So I guess I'll frame as a question, notwithstanding what happens here, are you open to working together to find a way on that LDR specifically to continue the conversation to keep
I
it
can't
whole?
have, having it cut, again, same thing. I'm not asking for a new fee. I'm
No,
saying,
I agree.
but even on the fees that we charge to developers, nothing new. We're going to go neutral. They're not going to actually pay more. We're just not going to give it to $20,000, which will go to developer profits. It's not going to go to lowering housing prices. But so I'd be really open to talk about both. But yes, of course, I do not want to lose the LDR, so of course I would be.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions at all? Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to turn the chair over to Councillor Lukes. I apologize to everyone. I've got to step out for an announcement for a little bit. Councillor Lukes will chair until I get back. Thank you.
Very much.
Our next delegation is Councillor Santos, Point Douglas Ward, to be heard with respect to report number 4, memorial options for Hope Valley.
Good morning. We got a hard copy of the presentation as well. that I'd like to hand out before we get going. And then how do I change slides? Do I have a little button or I have to push the button? That one. Okay. If you could turn it towards me so I can press it. That one. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Santos, if you could begin your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, committee members, EPC. I'm here to present on the memorial options for Hope Alley. And I have a quick presentation to kind of give you an overview and some background history of it, as well as some more research our office had to do to kind of give more of kind of a larger scope of what we like to do in this alley. So, of course, we'll start off with the presentation calling it the Dream of Hope Alley, and I have a presentation for you today, and we've also put it on the slide here so that the public can also see it. A bit of history, how Hope Alley came to be. It was brought to life by the work of course, our poverty and homeless advocate Al Weeb, who attended a memorial service back in Ottawa and brought the idea back here in Winnipeg. The memorial service was held in the alleyway at Main and Henry in between the WHA Access Downtown Building and the Bell Hotel. Through these memorial services held annually in this space, it was Al's thought that he would like to see this alley become known as, quote, Hope Alley. He envisioned a place where those living rough could find a place to gather where they would find a community of acceptance, dignity, and love, and most importantly, a place that provides hope for the future. A couple of years ago, myself have moved a motion to rename or do an honorary name of Henry Avenue to Hope Alley, and I presented Al with a copy of the honorific street sign back in September of 2022, and this kind of started off the vision of Hope Alley. Why is it important? Well, first of all, Hope Alley is a gather space along an important pedestrian corridor crossing Main Street at Henry. The pedestrian corridor along Henry Avenue connects more than 6 social services locations in the neighborhood, stretching several blocks west from the Disraeli Bridge. The vision for Hope Alley is actually supported in various documentation, more specifically Center Plan 2050, which we will be discussing later on, of course, when we discuss it on council. Poverty reduction strategy, also the Main Street Community Action Plan, and the Winnipeg Foundation's CARE Plan. So investment in Hope Alley will build on recent transformational projects in the area, such as Amuga Wigmig, which is the washroom, and Main and Henry Community Space. And a coordinated investment will create synergy towards revitalization. The next slide is just more of a larger show of all the different 6 social services, Thunderbird House, in all the different areas that are kind of connected to Main Street and Hope Alley. So back in November 6th of 2023, we did a community consultation over at the Bell Hotel. As you could see, there was lots of community that came out and wanted to talk about what they would like to see in that space. We were very successful with the benches, and we realized that if we asked what the community wanted, they would actually be more inclined to take care of the space. So that's what they do is with the benches, they clean up the litter, weather and all that stuff, and they actually appreciate the space. So we felt that if we did the similar approach to what amenities, what other things they could see in that community, they would really be appreciative and take care of that space. So we heard from the community that a canopy shade was important, you know, protecting themselves from the rain, use existing structures, probably a public art, easy to clean was another one. And some other thoughts that they wanted to be warm and individual and group seating. So we took that back and we had a report that came forward to this committee, and I want to thank the administration for the work they've done, but we wanted to do a little bit of more of a fulsome because the costing we felt was just not quite on par with what we really needed, and wanted to reach out to some other architectures and stakeholders in the community to really give us more of an in-depth look at what that shelter and what the public art would look like. So that's kind of what I'm bringing to you guys today. So phase one, the amenities to contribute to community wellness, safety, and dignity, which is the canopies and accessibility improvements. We had somebody within the community from Sibonall. He had mentioned that cantilevered canopies over benches, integrated lighting, and heat would alleviate weather-related issues of rain and snow. A self-supported structure, so basically nothing attached to the two buildings, a self-supported structure would actually alleviate the need to actually connect to the Bell Hotel or WRHA parking structure. This would be located on the south side of Hope Alley, which I wanted to give you a bit of a picture of what Hope Alley looks like. It would be on the south side, on the WHA side, and it would create a space between the Bell Hotel outdoor patio as well as space from residences who actually live in the Bell Hotel and from their windows, because we felt that might actually be a climbing hazard. So we proposed a pre-manufactured shelter package with integrated electrical light and additional provisions for industrial infrared electric heats that would come from under the ground and into the pre-manufactured shelter. And adjacent, we realized that adjacent street lighting indicates that there is electric power that is available nearby. So on the next page, you'll see a cantilevered canopy concept. It's a pre-manufactured free form, and if you look at it closely, it looks like a bus shelter. And so this would actually sit on top of the alleyway or on the south side, and heat would come, or electricity would come from underneath, and it could potentially be heated or non-heated. There is options to be heated or non-heated. The next idea was the streetscape, to redevelop Hope Alley as a pedestrian street that gently slopes from the main street sidewalk level to the elevation of the alley running west of the WRHA parking structure. Again, in the picture that I showed you, there's an actual curb there that actually people will step down from, and it's not very accessible for people who are traveling in wheelchairs. They find it very difficult to access the alleyway if they were traveling between Main Street Project and Shiloh Mission. So the slope would be a 1% kind of grade, making Hope Alley accessible to community members with mobility impairments or mobility devices. Also preserves the potential for vehicular access, because vehicles still need to come around in the back and access the parkade or load food or supplies to the Bell Hotel. And while we're undertaking the site redevelopment, the subservice of work for foundations and electrical for the shade canopy may be undertaken. So those two projects, the streetscape and the cantilever, kind of go hand in hand. Next page is a bit of a design of how it would look like. It shows, we were keeping maintaining the width of the sidewalk, where the new shade canopy with integrated lighting and heat would be supported, and then the slope of the new service back from, obviously, from the front, from the right, you can see the right side of the picture to the left side. Next page is a cost estimate. This is a Class 5. For the great work of Sibonall, they drafted this for us. You can see the shade canopies with heat and lighting. It's all outlined there. You can see that there would be infrared heating, additional parking screening, et cetera, comes to $255,000. A shared street design at $279,000, and auxiliary costs, so legal fees, surveying, and all that has been built in for a total of approximately $756,000. So some other considerations we've looked at. In the beginning, they were canopies that were attached to the buildings. And if the canopies were to be attached to the buildings, we have reached out to WRHA and the Bell Hotel, and they have both provided letters of support. They are attached here, part of your documentation to prove that they do support the project as well as anything that needs to be attached to their buildings. Although, however, Bell Hotel does have a bit of a caveat. It is a historical building and would require a heritage permit. We reached out to Rena Ricci, the heritage planner, and she was consulted with, and she advised that the project would be supported if the canopies were limited to the south facade, which is the one facing the alley, and not installed on the primary facade facing east. The next phase, once the streetscape and the shelters is done, would be the memorial marker, which would be bringing the community together through public art. And I do require approximately a 5-minute. This is a lot of information. I'm hoping I can get an extension. Thank you.
All in favor?
Appreciate it.
Carried.
We've reached out to Red Road Lodge to kind of gather their feedback on some of the costing of what it would take to do a stakeholder engagement, consultation, and workshop. They've advised about roughly $5,000 to $10,000 during the 2025 to kick off the project, a series of 2 to 3 community stakeholder engagement sessions to see what the community would like as a memorial marker to honor the community, and another $50,000 to $80,000 to create the concept design, run the community sessions, and possibly create an artwork piece and assemble the pieces to be ready for installation. Hosting a community event would gather the communities together and take part in the process and feast again. And again, it's similar to what we're done with the first phase where we had consultation about the canopies and what they see. We would do another community consultation with the community about what kind of memorial marker they would like to see. Because again, when they take part in it, they feel they can take ownership and take care of the space and the memorial marker. We costed out roughly about $90,000, and I have committed to the community that I would fund this through the Point Douglas Ward Initiative, through the Community Fund, Land Dedication, or CIGP. So that would be coming out of my ward and would not be asking this committee to fund it. But I did wanted to make a note that that was part of my contribution towards the Hope Alley, and also hoping that the City of Winnipeg Public Works would also participate in providing some funding as well. Other considerations of the memorial marker, again, we've reached out to WRHA. They're very supportive of attaching something to the side of their building. They have also mentioned that if they were to leave the space, because WRHA actually leases the building from Chartier, they would cover the cost and responsibility for removing it and placing it somewhere else if needed. The other consideration in phase 3, okay.
2 more minutes. All in favor? I guess I can't do that, but the chair, but all in favor? Carried.
Thank you. I'll be really quick. So phase 3, the pedestrian crosswalk, low-mounted flashing beacons. We know there's a lot of vulnerable individuals who utilize and support the services in the area and head out into traffic at any moment when they're in an active mental health crisis or while inebriated due to addiction issues. There's also community members that have mobility issues and require mobility aids. So in order to provide safety and dignity to those who use the shelter system, we're requesting a replacement of the existing infrastructure. Public Works has plans to place low-mounted flashing beacons at this location and improve the visibility of the crosswalk. I do note that I'd like to request if you could also ask the public administration. They have 10 locations included in their road safety improvement program, as detailed on page 54 of the supplement of the preliminary budget. right here. So on the second page of it, they had mentioned lower mounted flashing lights, 10 locations, cost of $145,000. There's no list outlined of where these locations are, and I'm hoping you can ask the administration if they could make Main and Henry or at Hope Valley a priority. Next and lastly is the archway. This is a concept where this would be really far and few into the future. After everything's kind of done, the archway is more of a long-term plan, and we wanted to have a preferred design was a metalworks archway, and this is taken from the actual report. Similar to Cordon Avenue, that would incorporate 7 eagle feathers, have the 7 grandfather teachings and the welcome to Hope Valley, and then we would ask a project manager be assigned. A motion is before you, and I hope that you guys would accept it, an amending motion, and yeah, I'll take any questions if you want to talk about the amending motion that I have in front of you.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for your very robust presentation, Councillor Santos. This is the first time I'm seeing this, so a lot of information. I'm aware of the project. Committee members, do we have any questions? Councillor Rowlands?
In the motion that you have detailed for Executive Policy Committee, and it is the first time we're seeing the presentation, I got a quick peek at around 3-4 last night. But in the motion you've detailed for committee, you're looking for, again, an allocation of a department within public service. You've pointed to Public Works a few times, to appoint a project manager who has expertise in working within multidisciplinary projects to lead it. You've outlined a 3-phase. We don't have the 3 phases and future phases in front of us, but we do have a cost estimate in the amount of approximately $800,000 to be referred. What is the $800,000? You've detailed work in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You've detailed work. Is for instance the archway scoped in? What is scoped in the $800,000? What items, assets, etc.?
So what's scoped in the 800,000 is the shade shelter and the pedestrian crosswalk accessibility, the grading of the one. That was the only one. So phase 1, that's what's the 800,000. So what I'm asking this committee is, you can take pieces of it, all of it, or none of it. I'd like you to take the most important one is number 1 is the assignment and allocate a department within the public service. Task the CAO to do this together with considering appointing a project manager. That is actually what's written in the report. I literally took that verbiage out from the attached report because that was suggested that a project manager should be assigned to this. That was what I had requested in my previous presentation, because I think that would be very important to this project to kind of move this project forward into the future and really drill down on the costs and whether that be heated or non-heated shelter. I think that's really important. And then the second motion is to explore external funding sources. I think it's important to note that we should be a shared cost between the city and external funding. I know I've heard from the public administration that they can't do this work, explore external funding, unless the committee directs them to do that. If we just received it as information, they're not going to go look for external funding. So their need requires a motion for the department to go ahead and do that. And while they're doing that at the same time, I'd like to have this report and the cost of $800,000 be referred to the budget working group for consideration. If they cannot source it for outside sourcing, maybe then if they can find it within the department to fund the shade canopy and the slope, the accessibility, or the shared street, I should call it a shared street project.
We typically have to motion to have the public service receive funds and gifts. We have a motion like that coming up through committee today with respect to parks. You have placemaking features, specifically the weather protection canopies. You've contemplated both standalone in this deck and also attached to buildings.
Correct.
You have letters in this deck that says, should WHA vacate a building, perhaps then they would entertain the canopy. It takes.
No, they were
WHA
okay with having the
vacate it.
canopy attaching to them. When they mentioned they were going to vacate, it had to deal with the mural itself, if they were to vacate the building. It's the mural,
Yeah.
yeah. But
And you have.
we
a-
decided to do a standalone shelter so that we would not require legal documents with the Bell Hotel or the WRHA. We felt it would be a lot easier for the public administration to deal with just a standalone structure. Because if you were to attach, but even though WHA still said they would support it, and so would Bell Hotel, we still covered our bases in both respects. But if we were to attach it, my understanding, there will be some legal documents, permit issues, right?
Yeah, you have
And
40,000 outlined in surveying and legal costs here in your
Yeah.
budget. So you're saying you both might need them and you might not need them?
correct.
Okay.
Again, it's important that a project manager be assigned to this project to really work out the minutia and the details of it. I'm trying to come forward with options and different options and, give a more robust ideas to the space than what was issued in the report. So that's my hope, that we can take some of these ideas more forward with a project manager, and then also the public service be directed to explore external funding once they have more of a costing down of what the ideas could be within the alley. Clear as mud?
Yeah.
Any other questions? I just have a short question.
Sure.
So, like to seek external funding, is there an organization that, like, let's say if the Winnipeg Foundation were to give external funding, who is the organization?
Well, I'm glad you asked it. There's actually a couple of organizations, Winnipeg Foundation being one of them.
Who would they give the money to?
They would have to donate the money to the City of Winnipeg, because the City of Winnipeg would be ultimately the one applying for it. It is a public right-of-way space and owned by the City of Winnipeg. So it is them that should be applying for grants. So Winnipeg Foundation is one avenue. I've also heard that externals are willing to donate funding. We've accepted donations from, other organizations or people. Also, I want to note that public administration had asked me to write this into the motion because they had mentioned that FCM has potential funding to support a project like this called Implementation Projects Adaptation and Action. I have the link here, and it talks about canopies and shade shelter that protect unsheltered residences from extreme weathers. So there is a pot of money from FCM that could also fund this project, and it's up to $1 million. So if we could get this started now, and they could apply. The first intake is closed. It closes in August, but there is another intake in the spring of next year. I believe it's February of 2025.
Okay.
So there's lots of opportunities for other people to come to the table and partner with the City of Winnipeg. And so I have to write that as a motion and direct the public service to do that work. So if you just took 1 and 2, I'd be happy with that. You can strike 3. That was just an opportunity to have more discussions with the public administration in the budget working group. But if the city is not interested in doing that and only want to fund the low mounted lights, and my office funds the mural, and then we look at external funding sources to do the shade canopy and the crosswalk area, or the slope, the administration needs direction from this committee to do so.
Sure. I'll just say this, just speaking as a person who did fundraising for 10 years before I came here. It's easier and better to have an organization independent of the city to make the applications. And that can be done because even though it is on city property, it totally can be done. And it's more favorable. I think funders look more favorably to give to an organization than the city of Winnipeg for a bunch of reasons. But anyways, I'm just saying that. And boy, if we can find someone in Public Works that actually writes grants, that would be wonderful. I don't know of anyone there, but that could do that. We don't have anyone in the city, really, that's doing that. Mr.
Does-
Patton, sure. I've not known that Cindy Fernandez does
Greg?
that, but that would be great, too.
They all do it.
Okay, thank you very much for your
Great person.
presentation, if there's no further questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next delegation is Councillor Edie, Minarski Ward, to be heard with respect to reports 12, 15, item 4 of the Standing Policy Committee on Water and Waste, item 5 of the same Standing Policy Committee, and item 2 of the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works.
Thank you, Councillor Edie. You can begin your presentation.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and hello, colleagues this morning. Interesting agenda you have today. A lot of things related to what I would call decay in the city, and the ones I'm going to speak to are about that. And I'm wearing my Be Kind pin. I'm going to try to be kind, but I may end up expressing frustration that's happening out in my ward. And when I hear from other people in other wards, which, because I traveled around the city, and they acknowledge me, I'm a city councillor, there's a lot of very, very upset people. And a lot of it's related to the decay. So, but let me first speak to Report 12. I was just listening in under Councillor Gilroy earlier, and it was really good to hear that the mayor's talking about a 30-day delay. On that report, I do have some suggestions for changes. There's two things in the bylaw that concern me. Number one, you know, the money thing is what it is, but there's a clause there that states that no money, like, I think it's meant to be full-time administrative staff, not to direct money towards that. But I don't know how Art City or anybody's going to deliver programming without that direct service person, and that's usually what they're raising funds for. The materials are, you know, a factor as well, but if you're delivering arts programs, like ultimately you have direct service personnel, and the way it's phrased in the bylaw, it's not clear. I think it's trying to get at administrative staff, like the office staff that sort of oversee accounting and the manager and so on. So I think that needs to be tightened up on that language, just so that the committee, once it starts its deliberations on applications, it's able to do that. The other point I wanted to make, now, you know, in the face of, you know, cutting whatever, $2 million, whatever, from grants from all departments, except the only department I didn't see in there were the grants that transit gives out, which is kind of interesting, but I think those are more like contracts anyway, like Downtown Biz contracting to clean the bus shelters. But one thing I would note is that I think that rather than appointing members of EPC, the power structure, the mayor's power structure, I would rather see us during our November assignments meetings to have us, all of council members, decide who's going to serve on a committee that's going to consider applications. And in light of restoring some funding, I think that's important. So I'll leave it at there, but, and also I wanted to say I'm quite disappointed to see us list. We have these advisory committees, you know, the people are all appointed by the city of Winnipeg, and you're talking about cutting their funding? Come on. You know, if you're going to do something like that, you know, you better get it. So, you know, you can, I think that should be taken out of the picture. Any advisory type committees where we're the ones who are deciding who's going to be on, on that board. You know, you're cutting internal, whatever. So 15, neighborhood revitalization, I'll call it. I thank Councillor Gilroy for working with me, and she wrote it up. But I want to talk about this. So we're making huge investments in downtown. Very important. Now, given those huge investments, and there's coming from the private sector, coming from the public sector, downtown is on its way forward. And I mean, there's a secondary plan you're considering, whatever. I'm not going to speak to that, apparently. But in the downtown overall plan, I don't think it's right in this secondary plan, but they talked about a core area initiative just for downtown. Now, we got the half money, and I bet you a ton of that money is going to go into downtown. So, we have, in the William White neighborhood, not 80 during the election, we had 80 derelict properties. Now there's 110. Some were resolved, and then a whole bunch more get added. The Dufferin neighborhood, which is not a housing improvement zone. William White is a housing improvement zone. So is North Point Douglas, which is doing, I would say, doing better. It's not great, but it's doing better. You have West Alexander. You have Centennial. You have Spence. You have Daniel Mack. You actually, Deputy Mayor, you have a particular area that needs some revitalization as well. And so, and actually, the more success we have downtown, you can see what's happening over at the Osborne Village, Councillor Rollins. That's because they're having more success downtown. Actually, Councillor Schreier and I were around here late last night in the downtown. And it was a lot more peaceful than it's ever been, I have to say. So we need to work with other two levels and look at a core area initiative, our neighborhood revitalization, to resolve the problems. I note that there's no consolidation of garbage collection coming, but it notes that, oh, we're having success in cleaning up the mess. Well, yeah, kind of, but the problem hasn't gone away. There needs to be a program. Anyway, so there's all kinds of things that look at. And just for history, we were looking at, I was on the budget working group, and I agreed to go to this process, and I think that it's important on that. But it's directly related to neighborhood revitalization. The Andrew Street Family Center started receiving funds because it was part of the core area initiative back in the late 80s. That's why, oh, we've been giving this grant for that long. Now, what this new process is going to present is an ability for a committee to evaluate success. Is what we're funding delivering on what we need for neighborhoods? So that's really important. But on a neighborhood revitalization, a bigger picture, there are neighborhoods, and you know we need to work them together, but that need concentration, because as downtown has success, it goes outside. But even now, like, it's falling apart. You could have different housing initiatives in William White. Maybe some sort of investment money could go towards co-op, where the co-op owns maybe 50 of these properties, builds things on it, gives people a chance to have ownership, because co-op housing is ownership. And people need that. You can't just have all rental, okay? So different needs. You could do that all under a program. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I think we need to move this forward, and I think we need to have our public service. It'll take some time because our public service is working on downtown. I get that. I want downtown to be really well too, because I come and play downtown. I work downtown, and I think it's important. But let's not forget that ring around downtown and some of the other neighborhoods that we have in the south part of the city. So, moving on to garbage. Well, I sort of spoke about it. I'm very disappointed in that we're not moving with Collins. One of the programs that they could have done is we could have consolidated into solid waste the litter bin collection. And under solid waste, you have an ability to establish a source of funding to expand the number of bins. And maybe we should have some of those big ball orbits coming into the city. Because as you drive from Highway 1 from Headingley into Winnipeg, I hear, what a mess. That's what the first impressions are for people of Winnipeg. We need to take handle. It's not just downtown. It's the whole city, especially on our image routes where people are coming into our city. We could have at least consolidated that, but no. Can I have 5 more minutes?
Okay, motion for 2 minutes. All in favor? Carried.
So while they have streamlined bulk waste garbage dumping, there needs to be a program, because we know near the end of the month at whatever points, given the state of housing in William White, like these are all directly related to neighborhood revitalization, you know. We wouldn't have as much problems. So anyway, so on the green cart progress, so I heard in the news we're going to charge a flat fee, but I know you're not going to do that. But you know what's very disappointing to me? What's really disappointing to me is that we have the William Whites, the Dufferins, the North Point Douglases, the Spence, even some parts of West Broadway. We have this issue where people can't pay their water bills. Flat fee. We turned down my idea, which is a good one. It's not a ideological position. It's a matter of what can people afford so that they can participate in a program. So what I didn't see, and EPC knocked it out originally when I was on Water and Waste and Move Forward, I want to know in the various neighborhoods, you know, let's identify the problem, and maybe you could do one of two things. In some neighborhoods, don't make it mandatory. Some neighborhoods, there's 200 and whatever, almost 40,000 households on that collection system. Why can't we just let, in a poverty area, then if you're not going to go away from fixed fees, then why not look at it from that perspective? Various neighborhoods. Anyway, may I just have a couple more minutes? I'm going to go on Louise Bridge just for a minute.
We'll give you 2 more minutes. No, they don't want to give 2 minutes. Okay. Do we have any questions for Councillor Edie?
Yes, the one question I have is on the Louise Bridge.
Okay.
Hard to be coming.
Okay, look, you've got a question on Louise Bridge. All right.
Yeah,
Councillor Rowlands?
that's my question. Louise Bridge. Councillor Edie, what say you?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
On the Louise Bridge,
Yeah.
Councillor Edie, what say you?
I say the reality of a new bridge system crossing the Red River at Higgins and at Stadacona, I think it is, at that point you get across, or Nairn. You know, the future is we're talking about a rapid transit bridge. We're talking about replacing the bridge, having active transportation. So that's there, and we have these properties, for example, the Brown and Rutherford property, which could be affected. I'm saying right now, I support, let's not turn the Louise Bridge into the Arlington Bridge, okay, please? Like, the reality is, the money to do that transit thing, and it's coming through North Point Douglas, great opportunities, but the reality is, we still haven't found all the money to finish off downtown in rapid transit. So the reality is, let's restore it so it can last at least another 25 years. When they did what's now called the Harry Lazarenko Bridge, they renewed it. it's going to last more than 25 years, actually, I think. It seems to be steady and good. So I don't want to delay our trying to get this into the capital program, because again, I don't want the Louise Bridge to be in Arlington where we shut it down. And that Louise Bridge is important to the people around, and it's important for trade and so on. So that's all I wanted to mention. Let's just please, I know others, beg to differ, but the pie in the sky thing is actually another problem though, but we just don't have the money. The Brown and Rutherford, they may have to give up land, but if you just repair it for the last 25 years, the Brown and Rutherford property will not be affected. So when we're considering these things, we have to realize what kind of deterrence might happen in order for the renewal that needs to happen in North Point Douglas and, other areas. But so that's all I wanted to point out. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Councillor Eady? If not, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much for your suggestions on the grant process. There's a lot of options there, and as you know, you were in the budget process. Yeah, there's a lot of options on the table that are going to be considered. So thanks for your suggestions.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Our next delegation is Kate Kaler from the Social Planning Council to be heard with respect to proposed grant intake and review process. I don't see Kate with us in the chamber.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's not here now.
There's a man in a wheelchair that is like out of compliance. Can you put him up so he can get He's going to need the elevator. He's with Santos's delegation somewhere.
okay, so not seeing Kate, we'll move on to the next delegation, Kelly Ryback, to be heard with respect to report number 6, 12, and 13.
Hello, councillors. Just to let you know, those other delegates left when you said that you're holding it over for 30 days on the grant.
Oh, gosh.
So they get to me.
All right.
The first one on the analysis of costs associated with the adoption of the living wage, I did appear before full council on February 22nd. You subsequently had a meeting, EPC meeting on March 12th. At February 22nd, I did state that, the demographic of a lot who are on the lower incomes were the seasonal and part-time employees comprised of students, young adults, second income earners in a family, retirees, people with a second job. And that has actually been the case, as I'll talk later about on the table that was provided within this report. But my first item that I want to bring to your attention is when this was discussed January, February, it included organizations that received city funding. Then on March 12th, everything was taken as a report, and then there was a new motion that was passed that it included estimate on potential financial impacts this policy would have on existing service contracts with third parties and how this policy could affect costs on renewals. It eliminated the organizations receiving city funding. And in the March 12th meeting, after Councillor Brolwady read the proposed item, there was no discussion from any councillors or mayor about excluding organizations that receive city funding. So I don't know if that was intended or if that was a miss, because it was not discussed at the March 12th meeting after it was presented by Councillor Brolwady. And as a member of the board of Grants Old Mill on February 22nd, I did state that if this goes forward and included organizations that receive city funding, that we would need an additional $4,000 to $4,500 just to cover wages for the 4 months that we're open. And that is also part of, you're going to the other item about the grant intake, it brings another fly in the pepper. So I would hope that in your discussion with the public service that you bring that forward, and it was at your intent to remove that clause. As a board member wanting to do maybe the best for our employees, they are seasonal and part-time. That's one, positive if they were to get a raise. Secondly, though, as a taxpayer and as a board member, why are you going to increase our funding in order to do that? The third point of that with this whole item and with other items on your agenda is if you do increase what you're spending, where is that money coming from? Okay, so just want to make a point of that is, did you intend to eliminate that portion, or is it gone? The next point, and that also goes to, further on later in the report, when you talk about the estimate, if it's a 40% increase from your third party, the 1.6 million, again, that's where you need to discuss if you do want to bring back the funding for the organizations. Okay. Also to state, you're going to hear later how 81% of the residents approve the concept of the living wage. And there's been liberties with that statement that 81% support the living wage. When that survey was taken, there was no price tag to the living wage, and it was just as a concept. And as Councillor Luke said on March 12th, when you various living wage on Winnipeg, our Winnipeg 2045, it is just a vision. It's not a set in stone plan. But yeah, you could say 81%, but it's as the concept, not the specific to what we're talking about today. Secondly, is that a true representation of the entire population of 81%? Going forward on that, so in the report, in the job classifications, 13 of the 21 job classifications are seasonal and or part-time, which is not applicable to the living wage. And when we also look at the workforce management audit, the City of Winnipeg, or that's not City, the Winnipeg Free Press and the Winnipeg Sun having editorials about city fiscal responsibility and the lack of funding and the deficits or no rainy day fund. Thirdly, Tiff Macklem, the governor of the Bank of Canada, who was in town in June, talked about the lack of productivity, that we have a challenge of increasing productivity from especially new workers. That I'll go back to when Councillor Luke's talking about the workforce management audit. Let's not hire one single person until we fix this. I would say let's not raise any wages until we improve productivity, because you don't have to go far every day to see a lack of productivity and mistakes. There's also mentioned in the report the special wage allowance that was negotiated and accepted in the last collective bargaining agreement, that there's still $1 million not allocated through the use of there's supposed to be a committee that is supposed to negotiate where that $1 million goes. And when that is incorporated, I don't even know if you need to have a living wage component this motion if that addresses most of the concerns. But also where I'm challenged with number one is for seasonal and part-time employees. And I've gone through the list. Secondly is you have no jurisdiction or accountability that if an employer is going to charge you more through the third-party service agreement, that the money is actually going to the employee. That's a challenge there, and that's itemized in the report. And it's going to increase costs, especially if you are going to come back and go with the funded organizations. And you don't just spend money to address, case-by-case situations of somebody's hardships. But again, where is the money? On the item of the grant intake, I understand, as it was mentioned earlier, and that's why those people left, that you'll look at this in 30 days. And by no means are we discounting the services and the value of those organizations. And what I'm concerned with is, was this truly identified in the preliminary budget discussion, if those organizations knew or should have had an opportunity to speak then, or was this bylaw after the fact, and that's why we're here today, that it is a hardship to them, because maybe there's a consideration of a bridge, if all the money can't be found in order to just replace the 2.1 million, that is there a period for where there's a bridge of funding beyond the 1.3 million, but secondly, maybe a condition of receiving matching funds. Because we're also where I'm challenged on this is when organizations have said the City of Winnipeg is the primary provider of operation expenses. And when you go through that list of organizations, there's many of them that do not post their annual report or an audited financial statement. Some do. And I would also say for transparency and accountability, for when new applications come in, do they have to provide their salaries and wages of their full-time staff? And are they, are they paying reasonably, or are there any causes of inflated amounts there? But you're going to take it away in 30 days, and I hope there's due diligence and maybe criteria on that regard. But I do feel for them if they've just found out that 2/3 of their funding could be going away, and with different conditions attached. Update from Centerport. I'm very encouraged that this is going to be an active conversation with Centerport. I grew up in that in the St. James area where the city component of Centerport is going to lie, and there's going to be a large residential development. I've walked Sturgeon Creek. I used to play baseball for the St. James A's at Optimus Park. I lived walking distance from Saskatchewan Avenue, where there's the train tracks, and then it's all field where this is going to take place. The optimism is new opportunities for St. James, new growth for the city. It's a reason for the Chief Peguis and the Kenaston changes. But where the challenge is the impact of the St. James Assembly School Division because of the additional growth. And they may need a new school, may need new other amenities there, may need a new community center. But also traffic and safety and the impact on the roads. And the impact of they're going to have their own rail yard. Is there a health and safety issue because of any catastrophe at the rail yard? The issues with noise, that when that starts going forward, can the city be proactive in putting in noise barriers such as tree shelter belts and other infrastructure so that, don't plant the trees after the rail yard is built because it's going to be 20 years before they have an impact. But all that kind of planning. There's an issue with the traffic on Sturgeon Road and the intersection of Sturgeon, Saskatchewan. What's that going to do to Moray Street? Will Moray now become a truck route and lead to, and what happens, does that bring back to the table the extension of Bill Clement Way joining up with Bishop Grandin? But if that's not the case, it's Lead Kenaston, there's still going to be an increased traffic throughout St. James, throughout the Maples, Garden City, but also the perimeter. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to those discussions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ryback. Thanks for your presentation. Centerport is very exciting. There'll be lots happening, just from experience of rapid growth in Waverly West. So, are there any questions for Mr. Ryback at all? No? Okay, thank you for your points, for bringing them forward. Much
Good luck. Thank you.
appreciated. Thank you.
Our next delegation is Gord Delbert from QP Local 500 to be heard in opposition to report number 6 and item 3 of the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Water and Waste.
Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to speak on this item. I do have 2 documents that I would like to submit if I got the will of council and the chair's willing to hand out, or
Supplement.
the clerk is willing to hand out.
Okay,
I
all
think
in
that should be
favor?
enough there.
Carried.
There are 2 separate documents there. I just thanked our previous speaker, Mr. Rebeck, for his comments. I often find, I think he helps make my case. I don't think that's often his intent, but I still thank him anyways. You'll see in those 2 documents I just handed out to you, I thought, it was important to bring some clarification to a couple of things here. It's often mentioned, we hear in the media, that we should be negotiating wages, and this is what should be getting done, and this is the process on how to do that. There's 1 or 2 concerns with that. First off, we do negotiate the wages. You can see I just handed you the special wage adjustment of $1 million that was negotiated. You can look at the classifications that are outlined there. This was not including in the costing of the report, the admin report. It should have been. I think it's important if we are dealing with taxpayer dollars that we are transparent and accurate in what we're presenting. This was not presented as a cost. This was costed against, in the report. So you can see that there. That has yet not been allocated, but it has already been budgeted for and will be implemented very soon, I suspect. We've just entered into discussions and negotiations on where that's going to be allocated to, but those funds are in place. They've already been budgeted for, and they make up primarily the list of low-income earners, many of which are primarily women, which is another concern that I think should be referenced. There's some other misconceptions I heard that, came up, that seasonal workers, I was a seasonal worker actually for the city for many, many years. What I did is I took on a seasonal job in the summer. I tried to find seasonal work during the winter. I raised my family. Many people still do that to this day, and to this, currently now. In some cases, we've negotiated with the employer where we bundle some of these positions to have more permanent, full-time, year-round people, just to retain people into these positions. But quite often, what people do is they apply for spare lists with the city, take on seasonal work through different times of the year that make up their employment over the term of the year and the entire year. The other piece that I've added there, that I've submitted, there was a probe research poll done on whether or not Winnipeg should become a living wage employer. You can look at that poll. That poll is very decisive. The one thing that I might add is this poll was done in 2018, so it might not be quite as accurate as what we might expect to see today. Given the current state of our economy, I would suspect those numbers would be much higher. And so I know that many of you are here to represent the majority of Winnipeggers. That's your role, that's your job, and we appreciate you doing that. And it's important to understand what it is that Winnipeggers want and what they want to see. If you look at the current state of our economy, people are struggling. In this report, this motion on working class City of Winnipeg workers, working class contractors that are providing city services. This is a report about Winnipeg leading, showing leadership and leading by example. Winnipeggers are struggling with the price of groceries right now, the price of gas, the price of rent. It does not surprise me why we see 81% in 2018. I suspect that would be much higher now, as I said. But no one's going to agree with suppressing working class people right now. You're on the wrong side of the fence than anyone that would think otherwise. We know the cost would be quite minimal. So according to the economists that we're dealing with at the U of M, our administration, our figures come up of when you incorporate things such as the special wage adjustment and other factors, at maybe just a few $100,000, very minimal. I think I would not even consider it a cost, I would consider it an investment. Because right now you're having recruitment and retention issues at a level you've never seen before. You're competing in a labor market where you're struggling to be a competitor. The reputation that the City of Winnipeg has as being an employer of choice is very poor. And that can be turned around when you introduce things such as a living wage where people don't have to be accessing food banks. They can work with some pride and dignity. It would help with recruitment, it would help with retention, it would help with the quality of service that is being provided to Winnipeggers. It's an investment. It costs too much money to have a constant turnover of staff, 311, where you're constantly training people because people are moving on. The wages are low, some of the lowest in all of Canada. That has got to change. We did negotiate an increase. I provided you the document. That is a legally binding document that came out of our last round of bargaining, so that has been done. It's yet to be implemented. The cost is going to be minimal. Once again, I would consider it an investment. It's time we start looking towards becoming the employer of choice. We increase our reputation as an employer within the City of Winnipeg. We start serving the citizens of Winnipeg with better quality services and not constant turnover and having to train people. this is a step in the right direction. We've seen this in, council supported this in the Our Winnipeg document. I think that's a really good document. I think when we're talking about improving the quality of life for Winnipeggers, that's a really good document, but if you support that document, you got to support the provisions within it. And when it comes time to implement things within this document, stand by what you supported. And so, you know, I suspect that, you know, this is, the recommendation is to receive this as information. We know that most Winnipeggers would like to see this being implemented. I know this goes beyond just the city of Winnipeg, that this becomes being a good employer, providing a good reputation for Winnipeg, leading by example. I would like to see this spread more. I want to see Winnipeg being a place that we can all be proud of. And this is a step in the right direction, so I'll leave it at that. And I suspect we'll see this at the City Council.
Does that end your presentation?
That's
All
it for
right,
me.
Thank you, Mr. Delbridge. Do we have any questions for Mr. Delbridge at all from the committee members? Anyone? No?
Just a comment, I'll come back to it when we debate later. Yeah, there are provisions in our Winnipeg, and either we meet them or we don't, and I think we need to have a debate about that here at council, but thank you for your comments.
Thank you for referencing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next presenter, the next delegation.
Okay, our next presenter, Patty Mainville, is no longer able to present, so we'll move on to David Grant, who is going to be heard with respect to Report 13, 14, 19, Audit Report 1, Item 1 of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works, and Item 6 of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works. And David is joining us via Zoom today. David, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you have up to 10 minutes.
Okay, can you hear us? Do you want to begin, Mr. Grant?
Sure. Let's at least come the way. Yeah, so sorry about this. Having to use a different machine. I would like to begin by issuing a compliment. Under Audit 1, this is a high-quality audit report. It identifies ways that... I'll have to mute myself. Okay, sorry.
Wrong machine.
Please.
Unmuting yourself.
Sure. Sorry about that.
I'm
Second
sure
Zoom going.
get going.
Anyway, yeah, so on Audit 1, it is a high-quality report. It identifies ways that bad organizations can improperly enrich a leader, and the city has passed the test. I support adoption of this great report. Using small words on topic 7, using small words is not the only way or the best measure of city messaging. Euphemisms and spin can mislead. Why does this policy not deal with messaging that uses these? I think everyone strives to avoid use of what could be called propaganda. Topic 13, I support this item. Any entity that depends on City Hall for services or funding should be fully open on their operations and plans. Make such reports even before they are asked. Annual reports to the city should include costs, trends, and a listing of the benefits accruing to the city from their operation. They should know that renewed funding should be dependent on full reporting like this. 14, in general, I support remote attendance. I generally do attend this way for several reasons. It's efficient use of time and fuel. If you're waiting at City Hall to speak and learn at noon that your slot is sometime in the afternoon, those folks can be very disappointed. 19, as it now reads, this request should be considered the model for how traffic engineering requests are made. Staff should write a policy that requires this process for future requests. City Hall runs on rules and guidelines. There should be a guideline, in my opinion, to assist politicians and engineers to make decisions objectively. There are such rules for four-way stop signs. Please ask Public Works and staff to develop a similar guide for adding lanes and signal functions intended to reduce occasional congestion. If enough person hours of time can be saved per month, a capital expenditure of X dollars can be justified. When initial designs do not handle high traffic flows, there will be pressure to add lanes and signal functions. This pressure should result in an objective response, not an emotional one. If not for the four-way guideline, we might have thousands more of these impediments to travel. Every plea to a councillor could result in another four-way. Another example, westbound Sandusky at Waverley, one lane. So when there was nothing else in the neighborhood decades ago, that one lane sufficed. But now we have a lot of traffic going straight through and going south. And now the northbound traffic stream, which is fairly substantial, must wait for what is a minutes-long light. Second lane was not needed a decade ago, but it is now. Engineers looked at it, decided that it wasn't worth the expenditure. When hundreds of folks sit waiting every day, those folks will apply pressure to their local politician, who will call for changes to the related infrastructure. A good guide, pre-published guideline, can help make everyone look good. 100 cars waiting even 2 minutes has a cost. An 8-minute trip that stretches to 22 minutes because of congestion has costs for the traveler, but also for the fuel wasted. On topic 20, the big one. The video of the Plan 2050 hearing will teach everyone so much more than simply reading the plan. This hearing was a very powerful way for that committee to make their decision and to teach the public. There's a very positive theme to the plan, but it fails to link the safety concerns of residents with the lack of law enforcement, which City Hall has imposed on WPS. With all due respect, I suggest this is not a solution to the problems identified. It is a PR document. It has been skillfully written. Residents want more grocery stores, but the criminals who claim carte blanche from City Hall are driving those away and preventing more stores from opening or moving downtown. The plan is silent on the actual vexations caused by the unhoused and the drug-affected folks who threaten safety and peace and order there. The plan offers no path toward mitigating those problems. How do we prevent folks from sneaking into businesses and residential buildings to leave bad stuff on floors and stairs? How does the city plan to deter retail theft enough to support current and new grocery stores? That's an issue, I believe. If a store owner takes some tax dollars and opens a store but loses money every day, is that sustainable? Plan is silent on getting more clients into drug treatment. Treating every person who transgresses and harms our downtown must be part of any plan we expect to succeed. Comment on Graham, not your decision, but you're looking out for it. Graham is working well now. I spent a lot of time there waiting for my next bus, walking to destinations and seeing highlights like the museum. Changing it may do unexpected harm. The plan boasts about interacting with the public. It had a web presence. It avoided any form of wide public consultation, like advertised open house on the news. You know, some people do the courthouse open house is advertised on the local news. When the finance minister consulted decades ago, she held a series of meetings with dozens of residents at each one. A group of 5 or 10 would express their concerns and solutions and report to her. Plan 2050 has skillfully avoided any such actual sharing of concerns by those folks. It's consulted, but in a controlled way. The problem with the plan's public consultation process is that the responses were reworded, laundered perhaps, and the planners used their power to select which folks were invited to consult. You always have 100% support when you handpick those
Like, I
proposals.
know no one's paying attention, but like, he's saying we're laundering money. So like, a point of order, point of decorum.
All right, are you saying we're laundering money? Is that accurate?
I am not.
Okay,
I am
well,
not.
don't be saying
I am
that.
not. What I am saying is that the actual words and the actual comments of the people consulted, the sentences and words used were crafted by the authors of the report. We don't have video of those consultations, and by laundered, I mean wordsmithing, because people who do
It's a big difference.
fancy reports are doing wordsmithing, and that's what you could substitute wordsmithing for my use of the L word. I did not say anything about money.
Okay.
Okay?
Sorry, but still mischaracterizing the public services job to say that they are wordsmithing. We actually pay them to provide us advice, Madam Chair. So mischaracterizing the public service in that way, either characterizing their work as laundering or wordsmithing, is just really
Okay,
skating the line.
Okay, we'll move on. Keep continuing,
I think
Mr. Rand.
I'd like to move on.
Okay,
I see nothing wrong. I write and I compose documents and I publish, and I'm very careful in those with how I assemble them and the words I choose, and I call that wordsmithing. There's nothing evil intended or meant by that word. It should not be considered an insult or an affront. Public Works number 1. When those of us who live on and must use P3 roads hear that someone's sidewalk or bike path will be moved to top priority and we do not even have a sidewalk, we say this is dangerous and unfair. Others in my Fort Richmond Residents Association support my concerns on this. It's been an issue I've raised before for years. When you're walking down an icy road, whether it's to get to your bus or to walk your dog, and you can barely stand up on that road and you have no sidewalk, it seems easy to be jealous of someone who is saying that their downtown sidewalk, lovely flat sidewalk, has an inch of snow on it, and that is worth getting rid of. So there's a disparity, and I just want to raise that disparity. And on Public Works 6, folks advocating speed changes tout big increases in safety. The other problem that is not mentioned is that we keep approving residential areas with what I call spaghetti roads, where there's twists and turns all over the place. If you want to get to the house behind you, it may take you 5 blocks of walking, riding, or driving. Those roads encourage the use of cars. As long as we're going to keep building roads like that and street designs like that, we're going to keep pushing people toward taking the car when they have to get to the community center or to their neighbor. So that's another item that was mentioned earlier, is that long ago, cars were limited to about 10 kilometers an hour in cities. When we're talking about going from 60 to 50 to 30, why don't we just go down to 10 and placate the protesters? And because at 10 kilometers an hour, then no one has a reason to fear the vehicles. So just thought I'd throw that out there. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, that's interesting to have Mr. Grant advocating for 10 kilometers an hour. I'm not going to forget that one. All right. Are there any questions? No questions? All right. Okay. Thank you for your interest in civic affairs, Mr. Grant. Much appreciated. No questions, so have a good day.
Christopher Colascio to be heard with respect to report number 6, 12, and 15.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Colascio.
Morning. I would first like to congratulate Mr. Sherwood Armbruster for your interim position at CAO. I spoke about you at council a few weeks ago, so I'm super honored to see you at that level of office. So thank you for your service, and to all the staff of City Hall. To Executive Policy Committee.
Mr. Colascio, can you just step back a tiny little bit? That's perfect. Okay. You've woken everyone up here.
Sorry.
Okay.
To Executive Policy Committee, EPC, thank you for allowing me to speak on items 6, 12, and 15. My name is Chris Colascio. As I mentioned before, I'm a civic practitioner and a policy entrepreneur. When I spoke to council a few weeks back, I also did mention that I'm a part of a brand new nonprofit called On-Chain Manitoba. Our mission is to advance opportunities for creators and entrepreneurs about blockchain technology. Item 6, analysis of costs associated with the adoption of a living wage. I have 3 points I would like to share with EPC related to the living wage. One, I've mentioned this once before, society's idea of work is changing. You have more millennials in the labor market now compared to other generations, and technology like artificial intelligence and, again, blockchain technology is changing the game for workplaces. 2, besides my biggest appeal to EPC to repurpose the Office of Public Engagement to the Office of Civic Engagement is the idea that the city should look at how a 4-day work week could play a part with the adoption of a living wage. I am a big believer that the city could save some costs if the city does its research on both types of policies. And my last point, which is a very personal one to me, is when I first heard of the living wage being talked about in City Hall back in 2021, I think it was you, Councillor Brian Mays, that talked about how you would like to see the collective bargaining agreement be the proper process in adopting a living wage. In my current day job, I work at the Real Canadian Superstore, and UFCW Local 832 is my union. I'm currently making $21.05 per hour at my workplace. I was told that our newest CBA is the best contract that my workplace has in 25 years. My rent where I live went from $979 to $1,018 a month. I also get rent assistance from the province of $17 a month. The total income I make a year is $32,000. The average total income in our province, in our region, is $59,000. From City Hall to me, as a citizen of Winnipeg, to EPC, let me share my lived experiences. If we are using the CCPA data set, you consider what I'm making at my workplace, $21 an hour, a living wage. Let me say that I'm still struggling to maintain a good standard of living and a quality of life with my current wage. Item number 12, proposed grant intake and review process. I know that not all city councilors on EPC were present at council meeting when I spoke in June, but I wanted to repeat something I said back then from my perspective as a policy entrepreneur. Perceptions shapes policy. Policy sets priorities, and priorities are all about process. To your worship, your comments to my delegation at council was, do you not think that having a grant intake and review process that aligns with strategic priorities would help address some of the issues citizens? And my response to you was, yes, but let the Office of Public Engagement have more direct involvement in the process. Let me elaborate more in detail of what I meant. In today's EPC agenda, I would like to quickly refer to item 8, option analysis, Broadway Neighborhood Center. Item number 9, process improvements, community center renovation grant program. And item number 11, Indigenous Youth Strategy 2024 grant funding amendment. What does 8, 9, 11 have in common related to item number 12 of the grant intake and review process? All these items are related to the city's grant funding and budget process. Why is that an important fact related to my response about the Office of Public Engagement needing more involvement in city processes? If you look at how City Hall is structured on winnipeg.ca, citizens, councilors, and staff at City Hall can only find the Office of Public Engagement within the Department of Customer Service and Communications. Why is the Office of Public Engagement not within the Department of Community Services? This, to me, is the current oversight of how our city government makes its final decisions on matters ineffective. This is my ask to EPC, public engagement from customer service and communications to the civic engagement, to the Office of Civic Engagement within the community services. The way the Office of Public Engagement has been used since the 43rd mayor created the office has been very reactive approach to engagement of citizens and third sector outside of business and government. The other policy advice I would also offer to this change is maintain the $3.4 million allocation of the budget, be designed, developed, and evaluated through a creation of a participatory budget process. And the last item, number 15, establishment of a tri-level agreement intercity revitalization. I'll be quick on this item. I think this is a great motion from Councillor Cindy Gilroy and Ross Eady. The only statement I would offer as food for thought to the Executive Policy Committee on the topic is what Mary Rowe, President of the CEO of the Canadian Urban Institute, says. The federal government has all the money. The provinces have all the power, but municipalities get all the problems. And that is my time. Thank you.
Okay, good on the time. Thank you very much, Mr. Classio. Thank you for coming down and for following civic initiatives here. You've been following it for many years. I'm sure you're having a real eye-opener. All right, do we have any questions from committee members? No, we don't have any questions. So thank you very much for your presentation, and we appreciate your time.
And just want to quickly say thank you for your service. I'm so proud of this council as a whole. And I know some people may be frustrated with the processes, but this is the process we have today. And we have to understand that not everyone's going to have a say. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk?
Our next delegation is Al Weeb, to be heard with respect to report number 4, memorial options for Hope Alley.
Good morning. I want to thank you all for allowing me here for what seems like the umpteenth time. Whatever umpteen is, maybe 20, I'm not sure, but it's been a long process. And I thank you for indulging me again on Hope Alley. I want to thank Councillor Rollins for allowing us time to go back and revisit the initial report and redefine it. Pardon?
Belated birthday.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Actually, early. Yeah. But thank you for that. Yes. Unfortunately, another birthday is coming. This is probably the most important short little speech I'll ever do, and I've done hundreds, if not thousands. Because if I cannot convince you and Councillor Santos, I want to thank her and Chaz for doing all the work on the report. And, you know, if the report doesn't convince you, you know, lives will be, the cost will be lives. It's that simple. It's black and white. Whereas Councillor Santos talked about the tangibles, I'll talk to you about the intangibles. Yeah, but if I were to, you know, I had Councillor Rollins on my radio show, and one of the things he said, well, we have to do more. I think maybe you're on twice. Mayor Gillingham, when he was candidate for mayor, was on my show and said we have to do so much more for the homeless, and he is making a valiant attempt to do that. And if I were to interview every single one of you in here today, why are you at City Hall today? It would be because I think I could make a difference. Am I right? Today I'm, you know, kind of offering you that chance to make a tangible difference, an intangible difference on the most important aspect we have in our society, and that's life itself. What I am pitching on today is the canopies, all-inclusive with lighting and heat lamps. Why is that important? I spent 28 months on the street, and I am here speaking to you from my lived experience. I spent 28 months on the street. I suffered through horrible frostbite on my fingers, on my toes, on my cheeks, on my nose. And the pain wouldn't go away for months and months and months. I suffered from hypothermia, and I'm not sure why I'm here today, quite honestly, because I was sinking into that deep end of sleep. But the very, very worst thing is the endless shivering and shaking because of the cold, the chattering of teeth for hours on end with no escape, sleeping in the back seat of a car in a junkyard. There are folks in Hope Valley today that I was vulnerable. I had health issues, but not as much as folks on the street here. And I should have been taken, but I wasn't. But folks here, we lose so many people on the street. I hold a homeless memorial service right in Hope Valley, and that's where Hope Valley started, actually. We have so many people passing away, and this year was about 50% more than last year. A small thing in the big picture, like canopies in summertime to keep the rain off, keep the sun away in a 30 to 40 degree heat, humidex. in the wintertime to keep the chill off and keep the shivering away. People die of hypothermia on our streets. That's you know, you read about it every single winter. Let's do something about it. Let's change that if we can. I cannot stress enough. Another issue is, for me, that's the most important thing we can do here. And of course, it comes with a cost because we have to dig up concrete. But releveling the concrete, the streetscape for people, pedestrians only, and for wheelchairs and walkers, it's really important because people get hit by the cars that go in there and park. If you can go there right now, you'll see probably 2 or 3 cars parked right close to Main Street there. We have a chance to do something. We have a chance to touch the tangible. We can touch the concrete. We can touch the canopies, but we can also touch humanity. We can reduce the suffering from frostbite and heat stroke, pneumonia, and we can reduce the loss of life in Hope Valley. It is that real. I'm not talking from non-experience, I'm talking from being there. But you don't have to do it alone. One of my gifts is bringing people together. I have several individuals from across this country who are willing to commit or have already committed money to Hope Valley. And so we'll figure out a way to get that done and put in the right pockets and the right areas to get this thing done. But I think City Hall has a responsibility to commit some money to it. I'm not sure what that number looks like. 750,000 seems, 755,000 seems like a lot of money, but what cost is life, honestly? And so I'm asking you today to just, touch humanity. Hope Valley is not only a local issue. We are known across this country. Hope Valley is known across this country. Hope Valley is known internationally. That being said, CBS called me about 6 weeks ago and said, we want to create a homeless series, or TV series of homelessness, following the lives of 3 protagonists. And your story is one of them. And we want to call your story Hope Valley Al. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if someday this particular moment in time can be recorded as the time when EPC and City Council gave life to people in Hope Valley. We have other supports in the neighborhood. We have Winnipeg Foundation, we have the Main Street Area Project, and Center Plan 2050. But Hope Valley there is just a part of something. We need Hope Valley to be a singular focus for the folks in the area. Other people, okay, let's talk about the mural. I think we need to save lives first before we, if it comes down to it, let's save lives first and work on the mural later. The mural is really, really important for empowerment, and that's one thing I haven't mentioned today, but empowerment for folks on the street is extremely important as well. But secondary to saving people's lives, and I thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Weeb, for your presentation and for sharing your lived experiences with us over time when you come. Do we have any questions from committee members at all here? No, we're familiar with the project. And
yes, of course.
What a good presentation together. All right, well, thank you very much for coming down
thank you.
And sharing
Appreciate
with
it.
us. Thank you. All right.
Is Amanda Wolf from Compost Winnipeg with respect to item 5 of the report of the Standing Committee on Water and Waste and Environment, and Amanda is joining us via Zoom.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Amanda. Welcome via Zoom. You can begin your presentation now.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. So I'm Amanda, and I'm the General Manager of Compost Winnipeg, and you all know that we are a social enterprise of the Green Action Centre. I'm here to express my strong support for the citywide residential green card program and to emphasize the many environmental, social, and economic benefits it offers to our community. I really want to say that the green card program is really important, and so is the interim program. Before the green card program can start, we have this interim plan to provide community drop-off locations at the 4R depots and at other locations in neighborhoods. And that can be rolled out fairly quickly, easily, and it offers a lot of benefits for Winnipeggers. Community drop-off locations, including the 4R depots, can benefit Winnipeg residents in the following ways. Obviously, diverting food waste from the landfill and preventing greenhouse gas emissions is a huge environmental benefit, but it also engages community members on the benefits of composting. It educates residents on what items can be composted, and it can prepare residents for the city's Green Card program that's eventually going to happen. So we can get the city of Winnipeg people used to the idea of composting, what goes in the bin, and how the program works. And maybe most importantly, it can reduce financial barriers and provide greater access for Winnipeg residents for food waste diversion and composting services. With the 2023 community grant we got last year from a community organization, we successfully operated 2 community drop-off locations in the Daniel McIntyre St. Matthews neighborhood. We had a community bin caretaker who was paid an honorarium to visit the bins 3 times per week to make sure it was not overflowing, tipped over, or stolen. The system worked well. The program ran very smoothly. We had no complaints about our bins, and people from the neighborhood accessed the bins regularly to drop off their food waste. Of course, this program aligns with the city's climate action goals, their waste diversion targets, and net zero plans. It also aligns with the city's social procurement policy, as you would be contracting with a local community-based social enterprise. This partnership supports a true triple bottom line, addressing environmental, social, and economic goals. And Compost Winnipeg is an experienced and trusted local provider of food waste collection services. I also wanted to address the $9 increase to the waste diversions fee that is proposed in the report. I do want to recognize, I want to express my support for this $9 increase to the waste diversion fee. I guess we all need to recognize that this is a long-term investment for our city for needed infrastructure. The green cards and the bins cost a lot of money. Implementing the $9 fee also shows potential investors, like the processing facility that needs to come to Winnipeg, that the city is committed to the green card program. So it's a small increase now over the next several years versus a large increase later. So I want to just express my support for that because it's an important part of the program. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a great step towards, all of the city's plans in terms of sustainability and accessibility. Just wanting to express my support too.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have any questions from committee members here at all? No questions. So thanks for coming on through Zoom to support the program. Thank you. All right.
Okay, and our last registered delegation of the day is Ryan Palmquist from Save Our Seine to be heard with respect to item 7 of the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Water, Waste and Environment.
Good morning, Mr. Palmquist.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. I'll keep my remarks brief. Just wanted to come and give a quick outline of the item that is on your agenda later today with respect to delegating Water and Waste Department Director Tim Shanks to be able to come into an agreement for the FCM Green Municipal Fund application for Save Our Seine. So just a very brief history. Save Our Seine has been in discussions with the City of Winnipeg going back about 9 months to a year, talking about green infrastructure. I'm sure everyone knows what green infrastructure is. We are particularly interested in the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund, which just relaunched recently at the beginning of June, and has an intake open which closes on August 14th. Thank you to the councillors of the Riel Community Committee, in particular Councillor Brian Mays, who then later shepherded this through the Water and Waste Committee. The Water and Waste Department, Save Our Seine had a meeting with Tim Shanks and other representatives of the department who put forward a very exciting proposal. It was not originally what we envisioned, which was that we wanted to help the City of Winnipeg push forward the green infrastructure file, particularly in anticipation of upcoming Mission District, CS District separation projects, which are delegated by City of Winnipeg and provincial documents to include green infrastructure. However, Water and Waste Department came forward with a much more interesting, I think, direction that they suggested to us, which is that we consist program, which nothing like that currently exists. We would essentially be applying to FCM to create a fund which would allow us to create either a subsidy program or a list of properties, details to be determined, but we would lead a focus on water conservation and water retention on private property, which is 90+% of the surface area of the City of Winnipeg. So while public green infrastructure is certainly important, we thank the city, particularly Councillor Mays, for his tireless leadership on this issue and bringing it forward. But we think that this is an untapped area that has significant implications for total water conservation objectives for the City of Winnipeg and the province. And we're excited to take it on, particularly, Madam Chair, in keeping with your earlier comments to Councillor Santos, who was speaking about, I believe, this same fund. We are that third party here to come and make that application and help the City of Winnipeg achieve some of its strategic goals in this area. So I am hoping that this will pass today, as it has at Riel Community Committee and Water and Waste, and just wanted to make myself available to answer any questions there might be.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? Councillor Mays?
Thank you for the kind comments. Yeah, we have been trying to go forward on the green infrastructure, which is 10% of our combined sewer budget, or it's supposed to be, so that's literally $100 million over 25 years or so, hopefully. Much of it coming in the Mission District, which is next up for combined sewer work. This is a little different than that, though. Which is great. This is above and beyond. This is something on private property that abuts the Seine River.
Ideally, yeah, it would be in our Seine River watershed, southeast Winnipeg area, Southdale, St. Vital, St. Boniface, etc.
Great. Okay. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a little question. So is this water retention, like wetland sort of concept is what you're looking at? Or?
Yeah, private rain garden, I think, is the direction that the department is interested in us exploring. Actually, as a matter of fact, our consultant biologist, Chris Penner, who we work with a lot, has one on his front yard on Egerton Road. I don't know if that will be the template for it, but there is significant work in the private bioswale, private water garden. It can include even up to and including sump pump related issues. I mean, any time when water is accumulating or being drained from private property obviously has an impact on the municipal storm sewer system. And I can't say for sure, but I would expect that the majority of the water that ends up in the sewer system originates in the sky, but then on people's front yards in particular. So I think that would be, it's a great opportunity.
Oh, it sounds very interesting. Have you seen Mr. Grossman's pontoons that he's placing outside the city with bulrushes and floating them on ponds? Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
It's very interesting. He's been very involved in the biomass with the bulrushes for many years.
Is this the harvesting from ditches?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. That
Yeah.
part,
Now he's doing pontoons on lakes with bulrushes, which was a concept that I talked to many people about, and he's on it, so that's good. This is This is exciting, too. So just keep us posted on this. Very interested in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I might close by saying that the floating wetland concept, essentially,
yeah.
we have a proposed floating wetlands project that is so far unfunded. I'll let you know if I get a grant for it, but that is something we're very interested in. I understand the Director of Planning and Development, Hazel Boris, is very enthusiastic about this technology as well. And we would love to get on that when the opportunity presents.
Okay, well, good luck on this. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work. All right. All right. No more delegations? No. Okay. No more delegations, so now we'll get into the reports. All right.
So moved.
Item number 1, monthly update on supportive housing, addictions, and social action indicators. Councillor Rowlands is moving this. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Number 2, monthly update on programming and activities for 150. I guess it's a verbal, do we have a verbal update that we're going to hear anything new, or?
Madam Chair, I believe I have a member of the public service here.
Can we bring them down, please?
Pardon me?
Can we bring them to join us, please?
Yes, I'll just see, I'll just ask
Gallery full of
my office.
We could
I can
continue
go-
on
Could I
and
do the next item?
go
I
back
have
to
a
this?
member-
All right.
I have a member of my office.
Okay, number 3 is an interim verbal report on the encampment cleanup pilot project.
This is also the public service, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do we
and
have anyone?
I will speak to that, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right. Mr. Ann Brewster?
Thank you, and I'd be remiss if I don't take every opportunity to thank you and members of EPC and Council for the trust that they placed in me in my interim role as Chief Administrative Officer. I want to reiterate my commitment to do everything in my power to serve the city and serve Council and serve the public service with good faith and in accountability.
A little louder because that's all good news, but,
Yeah,
okay.
this report here, as through you, Madam Chair, to members of EPC, is the second of 2 verbal updates on the pilot project, the encampment pilot project that was initiated in April by Council, directing the public service. And I want to thank specifically Chris Brenz, a member of the community service or community development team, housed in my office, as well as Derek Rush in Public Works for working with members of the community, including Main Street Project and Solo Mission, the Downtown Community Safety Partnership, to address the matter of garbage collection and debris collection at 3 sites, Assiniboine Avenue, Waterfront Drive, and Maple Street. To date, I'm happy to report that there has been good work and learnings accomplished from the pilot project, including the removal of 3,880 gallons of garbage and debris from these 3 sites in the first 2 months of the project. Our partners, Main Street Project, have been using their relationship and connection with the community and individuals in the encampments together with the Downtown Community Safety Partnership that's been going on a weekly basis to distribute garbage bags and then follow up with collection and removal of the garbage bags. It's being done on a weekly basis, as well as to identify abandoned or vacated encampments and proceed with removal where that's warranted. I'd invite any questions. That's the report for now. There will be a final report on this as directed by EPC on November 13th, and I do expect a fulsome report, significant data, and learnings and best practices to come from this encampment cleanup pilot at that time.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions on this at all? No? If we have no questions, I think, Councillor Duncan, would you like to move this?
Yeah, so moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right. Number 4 is memorial options for Hope Alley. Oh, are we ready for item 2? All right, perfect. All right, monthly update on programming and activities for Winnipeg 150.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have Felicia Wiltshire, Director of Communications and Customer Service, coming here to join me to provide a verbal update. I also understand councillors may wish to take this opportunity to talk about the
Sure.
incredible things that are going on in the community initiated by ward councillors, but Felicia Wiltshire is here to provide a verbal report on some of the details related to
Okay, super,
Winnipeg
thank you. Thanks, Mr. Wiltshire. If you could proceed.
Hi, so handful of updates just on Winnipeg 150. Right now, we still have the Winnipeg 150 Medal Program that is accepting nominations. Those are open until the 15th of July. So those medals are created for City Council to present to residents of Winnipeg who've made significant contributions to their neighborhood or the city at large. And members of the public can nominate folks for them. And the nomination forms are available on winnipeg.ca homepage. We have a number of upcoming events connected with Winnipeg 150. On the 20th of July, we are going to be having Winnipeg 150 Day at the Winnipeg Sea Bears game. So the Sea Bears are hosting Winnipeg 150 info throughout the day, and the mayor will be throwing out a ceremonial opening basketball toss at the game, and there's going to be other activations throughout that game. On the 27th of July, the Forks Trading Company will be hosting a makers market that will feature a Winnipeg 150 theme. On the 27th of July as well, Councillor Eadie is going to be hosting an event at Ross House called Then, Now, and the Future, and it's a family afternoon event full of celebrating cultural performances, food trucks, and more. On the 2nd of August, it will be the Winnipeg 150 Day at the Winnipeg Goldeyes game. So there again, the mayor will be throwing out the ceremonial first pitch, and we will have a number of activations and 150 things to engage fans. And we are also going to be having Winnipeg 150 pop-ups at community events coming up, including the Folk Fest, the Fringe Festival, and the Folklorama Kickoff. And last week, we launched the Winnipeg 150 Mayor's Ball, which will be on October 5th at the RBC Convention Center. And that is raising funds for the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre, Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, and the Manitoba Opera. And tickets are now available for sale. And again, you can find the information through the winnipeg.ca homepage. And final update, the archives tour. We have 2 archives panel sections that are moving throughout the city. And right now, one is stationed at Louis Riel Library for the public to visit, and the other one is at the Kildonan Place Mall. That is it for today.
Okay. Any comments, or Councillor Mays?
Sorry, can you give me the Goldeyes date and the Sea Bears date again?
Yes, the Sea Bears is the 20th of July, so that's next Saturday. And the Goldeyes is the 2nd of August, so that is the Friday night of the long weekend, just ahead of the long weekend.
And all of these are on the city's website?
They are. They're on the events calendar.
Sure. And I just sent one in. I'll just mention it. I sent one in, I think, last time or a few days ago. On September 21st, the businesses of Bridgewater will be holding a block party, and I'm partnering with all the businesses. We have over 50 businesses there, and we're going to shut down 2 streets. Center Street in the heart of Waverly West, and have a big party. So I'll send that one in too. I did send it in, but I will have more details. So that's September 21st. Okay. So, yes, Councillor Rowlands?
Fort Rouge's Fort Garry is leaning into Music City components of the Winnipeg 150 celebration, in addition to pop-ups that have been sponsored, like the Fun Times in South Osborne a couple last week. I'm partnering with Women in Music Canada for a very Winnipeggy album that'll be out and is being recorded this summer. So I'm excited about that, and let the celebrations continue. I want to congratulate our colleague from Charleswood on the blast from the past that happened and the fireworks that were heard around the world. Well, maybe not quite around the world, but certainly in almost every ward, because Charleswood had a party.
Okay. All right. Will you be singing on that album, Councillor Rowlands?
No, thankfully,
No. Oh.
you'll be happy to hear not at all, but Women in Music Canada is got some great folks. Sierra Noble's producing it, so we're excited about that.
Beautiful. All right. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate Councillor Chambers, who also held his Winnipeg 150 in St. Norbert by the famous St. Norbert Farmer Market. Very well attended. Unfortunately, weather did not cooperate all day as we've had, but we're looking for better weather, and I look forward to all the councillors' events coming up in the wards. So congratulations,
Super.
Councillor Chambers.
All right, thank you very much. And we need a motion for the verbal report to receive it as information. Okay. Someone want to put a motion forward here? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right. Now we're on item number 4, memorial options for Hope Alley.
Madam Chair, I think it's clear there's a lot of support and action going on in Hope Valley. I want to thank Councillor Santos, Chaz Martinuk, Mr. Wall that was here, as well as Al Weeb for their ongoing work and attention. Councillor Santos, had asked for for a couple of layovers here in order to get this incredible deck in front of us. And I think there's a lot of good things here. There's certainly a lot of ambition with respect to Al Weeb. And, we have the first letter that we've had for a long time from Centerventure, let alone WRHA. So there's things that are remarkable in this package. What we can say is that there's a budget referral, and last Friday, I think it was last Friday, Councillor Santos was announced on the budget working group for this budget review. So there's no reason why Councillor Santos can't continue on considering this project there. I know she was before Property and Development this month at Center Plan to talk about her ambitions for Chinatown. Center Plan, of course, is before us today with another area in her ward, Thunderbird House, with respect to investments in Center Plan. And here is an investment for Hope Alley that she has in several different phases. So while EPC just got this deck, I think late last night or early this morning, I think it's fair to say that there will be momentum going forward. Fundamentally, the motion that she's asked for our support is one that she can do in budget as a member of the budget working group. With respect to other source funding, Madam Chair, you had an excellent advice for Councillor Santos, and I'm committed to working with her, Al Weeb, and of course yourself, because a lot of the things that even were characterized in phase 3, we know there's action on right now. So, we're going to receive this as information today, but not without some strong words of support on the record. Thank you, Madam Chair. So moved.
Okay. All right. So that's the motion to receive as information. There's a lot of good momentum underway on this project. So I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried. All right. So item number 5. Award of contract for the provision of a public safety radio communication system and services through a cooperative procurement with the Government of Manitoba. I'm hoping maybe we can have someone from the public service come forward and speak to this $26.5 million project. So.
Yes, Madam Chair, fortuitously, Tyler Gooch, Director.
Perfect. All right.
Good
All right, Mr. Gooch. So just give us a brief overview of this and.
Yeah. Good morning, councillors. This is a partnership agreement. We're looking for council to approve award of contract to Bell Canada for us to join a partnership agreement with the province that allows us to join the provincial public safety communication systems. This is essentially the radio network that enables all first responders. The provincial network enables first responders outside the city, and we're looking to use the same network to enable first responders inside the city. Our analysis shows that it's a lot more cost-effective for us to join the province in this. The report shows an estimate of an $18 million savings over doing this ourselves, and there are qualitative benefits in the interoperability for first responders being able to communicate with each other inside the city and outside the city. It is a long-range commitment because there are big upfront costs to build the infrastructure.
So do we have any questions? Councillor Rowlands.
So where is, first of all, our public safety departments today? Why wasn't this considered within the next generation 911 system? We have what I've characterized as double upping and funding of next gen 911 fees and costs associated with it with Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service and next gen 911 fees, charges, admin costs with Winnipeg Police Services. And now here we have a $26 million ask, more so, maybe $27 million by the time it comes. It is disconnected to the thrust of those two, or is it, is the question. And how much am I cash managing for the province of Manitoba with respect to these fees? How am I guaranteed? What is the total, can you review the total costs for the record here on the provincial, the province of Manitoba's costs? When you talk about public safety, we typically also ask the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service that the paramedic portions are fully funded. So how are you guaranteeing that this is fully funded? Through you, Madam Chair, I see, sorry, Mr. Mayor's back, to the public service and perhaps, yeah.
If I may, I'll try to start with the beginning, and I might need a reminder on the second part of the question. So to the first part, how does this relate to Next Generation 911? Our Next Generation 911 funding is about the public safety answering points, the actual 911 contact centers, and the technology and tools and services that go into those facilities. This is about the radio network that police, fire, and paramedics use to communicate in the field. So it's the network that spans across the city. It's definitely connected to the communications in the 911 contact centers, but it's not the same expense. It's a different part of the service. Does that answer the first part of the question?
If you could go on to the next two, I might have a follow-up. In part, it does. I mean, you're both saying it's connected, but it's not connected. So my question was, why wasn't this walked on in the next gen 911? I certainly had questions. I said my first question was, why isn't the public safety departments here, right? My second question is, why wasn't this looked at as a total comms package for our public safety at the time? That's not for you to answer. I certainly had concerns about Next Gen 911 when it walked in, both is a Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service and a Winnipeg Police Service. And then finally, typically with the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service, we say, what portions of this is paramedic? Because that is a cost that is borne by the province. So if you could answer that question and then move on to the total cost for Manitoba government, because I want to know what, if any, we're subsidizing.
So this is the cost for the radio network itself, which is a service that's provided centrally to the public safety departments, as well as other departments. So transit's mentioned in here as well. We anticipate transit being potentially up to 30% of the users of this system. So that's why it's presented by Innovation and Technology. We manage the service and deliver it to the public safety departments. The second question about charges back to Shared Health for the paramedic use of the service, there are cost recoveries that are built into the model. It's part of the whole Shared Health contract for radio services. So the actual endpoints, the actual handheld radios and radios that are installed in the ambulances, those remain the responsibility of the Fire Paramedic Service.
So you don't really have a figure for me today, is that fair to say?
No, I don't even manage that budget.
I know, that's why I'm asking where the public service is today with respect to the Fire Paramedic Service, because you don't have those figures of the $27 million of the report here.
Yeah, the $27 million is for the network, not the endpoints. So the network is managed from Innovation and Technology.
in partnership with the Manitoba government.
Yeah, we're essentially
Buying in.
using the cooperative procurement of the Manitoba government to engage in a contract with Bell.
What is the status quo right now?
We are using an internally managed radio network that is, major components of that network are at the end of life. And that's why there's a decision point here about going back into a provincially managed solution.
How much does that cost council every year?
The current operating costs, I don't have those today. The analysis that we've done is going to the provincial public network versus modernizing that solution ourselves. And that's where joining the provincial network represents significant cost savings.
So you don't have the figures today, but you're telling me it represents significant cost savings. So then you must have figures
Yeah.
to be able to quantify that.
Yeah, so what it's costing today, like, it's not in the report what it's costing today. We built it 5 years ago. What is in the report is a comparison of what we need to do.
How much did it cost 5 years ago?
I don't have that today, I'm sorry. I can get that for the committee.
If I may, I do see in the report that the analysis was done in August 2022.
Yeah.
Shows a estimated savings of $18 million by going with the, which is an it's a system that speaks to all the different agencies, can speak with one another, as opposed to the city doing its own system. Because of course the police carry a line item as well for this project. It's on page 4.
No? Okay, so Councillor Duncan, do you have a question?
No, I'm ready to move on this. I just wanted to make comments if possible. The Next Gen 911 is not related to this. We discussed this in budget. Councillor Brawadi, if he wishes to comment as finance chair, they're not related to my knowledge here, so.
It was.
No,
That
the
it's
next.
absolutely connected to
The Next Gen
911.
911 is the service provided for the fire and police when communicating with the residents. This is not involving the residents.
Mr. Gooch, did you want to clarify what you said on the record? Because I wrote it down when you said it's connected to 911.
Yeah.
That this is a separate ask than Next Gen 911, this counselor understands, but that it is connected to 911.
Yeah, I will try to clarify. The Next Generation 911 programming funding, that's to maintain the 911 call centers. This is the radio communications to all of the people in the field. There are radio communications in the call center as well, but it's a separate investment. We manage it as a separate piece. So they're related in that way.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if I could have a motion then. Councillor Duncan?
Move the Winnipeg Public Service recommendation, or item number 5.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Now, Mr. Mayor, you're back, but I think we're going to break for lunch right now. So
Yes, we are.
thanks for coming back for
Yeah,
lunch.
for lunch, just
All
in
right.
time, right? So,
Okay, we'll be back at 1 o'clock. I'm going to make the call. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. All right.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are back and into our July 9th, 2024 Executive Policy Committee meeting. We are on item number 6, analysis of the costs associated with adopting a living wage. We're just short one counselor, but I think he's on his way. And so, Councillor Brawadi, I'll turn it to you at this time, please.
I'd like to move to receive this report as information.
Okay, Councillor Mays?
To belabor things, I don't think I'm on the winning end of this. I won't be voting to receive it as information. I am troubled by, one could get to the position of saying, okay, well, the city workers are unionized, therefore they can collectively bargain. I know the mayor has said that. There's some weight to that. The trouble is a lot of our people who work for third parties are not unionized. I mean, they just aren't. I mean, in fact, the whole Transit Plus mode of operation. We have like 9 different contracts or something. I mean, it discourages unionization, frankly. So, but that's not what's before us. But what troubles me really is page 9, bottom of page 9, there's a lengthy explanation of, well, when it comes to subcontractors, the city is not privy to what percentage split is used between labor and material. The city doesn't have jurisdiction over a contractor's workforce. They independently negotiate the wages that are paid. Basically, we can't implement this. Well, then why did the staff put it in our Winnipeg? I find this incredibly frustrating. Councilor Lutz has said, and I think correctly, look, we don't take all of our Winnipeg. We can implement certain parts of it. But if the staff's going to write in something that the staff later say is impossible to implement, and that's what this says, we don't know. We don't know what they're being paid. It's not our business. It's not our jurisdiction. It's generally confidential and not easily obtained or voluntarily shared. Well, then what was the point of putting in that provision in our Winnipeg? But that's not, that debate isn't before us today, but I think we should look back at some of these documents and say, if we're putting in stuff that we then, our own staff literally say, well, that's impossible, that's not ideological, that's not financial, that's just saying it's impossible. We can't do the very thing we recommended to you. I have real issues with that. So, but that's not before us today. It should be at some point, but for today, I won't be supporting the refer for information.
Thank you, Councillor Mays. Councillor Lukes.
Sure. So I will be supporting you, Mr. Mayor, on receiving this as information. I too think it's just crazy to think that we would be negotiating wages in the council chamber. I reflect back on probably what was a lesson learned for some of us was when we voted on the police pension, and that was part of a contract. Ultimately, that's how that turned out, that it should have been part of a contract negotiation. So, yeah, I mean, if we're going to negotiate wages in here, we can probably negotiate a lot of other things, which I'd love to. But we're not. And you know, I have to Councillor Mays' point, sometimes staff get it wrong. Like sometimes we get things wrong. No one's perfect. It may be in a report, and now they say they can't do it. Sometimes people get it wrong, and that's just the reality of working with humans. So, yeah, I won't be supporting this. I'll be receiving it as information.
Okay. Thank Councillor Rollins.
When I supported our Winnipeg and our Winnipeg Complete Communities, I supported the language that is there and knew that that would mean work moving forward, work much like this report that details, you know, costs and some councillors, as Councillor Gilroy said earlier today, ambitions of being a living wage city. And that would mean, you know, having it as the priority of plan within the strategic plan of the City of Winnipeg, our Winnipeg Complete Communities, which is in there. And it would mean, you know, then budgeting for the plan, to which, if this passes at council, would be the second time we did an adjustment to the living wage rate, which absolutely does have knock-on effects when, you know, when and if we get to collective bargaining, knock-on impacts like, you know, increasing wage compression and more, which we learned about. That being said, you know, with a sight line to those cascading costs that, you know, we have an adjustment. I was very happy when we had adjusted it, especially when we learned from, for instance, community services, that we had issues with lifeguards. And we had worked as a council to make sure that their wage was somewhat competitive with this move. And so even though we had to do a lot of other things with that class of workers to make sure that our pools were open and that we were teaching the next generation of lifeguards and so on, this was one of the elements. Similarly, when we get reports back that show that there's a differential still in the city between
men and women workers, this was also another step in making an adjustment between collective bargaining negotiations. So it has my support, but I do want to recognize that it does have some cascading impacts, but still happy to support it today.
I'll be supporting this to be received as information as well. As I said consistently, I'll repeat, the wages for city employees should be established through the collective bargaining process, not in the council chamber. I don't think it's the city's primary responsibility to ensure any wage amount for employees that are not City of Winnipeg employees, that are third-party vendors. And there for sure is a cascading impact of implementing this wage that is being proposed. Also, I think it's important that our staff recognize that the special wage adjustment envelope, if it was used for this, as has been suggested by, I think, CUPE, that would really leave that envelope without sufficient funding to provide any meaningful special wage adjustment for the 82% of employees that are in classifications outside of what would be affected here. So several reasons in my mind to leave it be that wages be negotiated through collective bargaining, and so I will be supporting that this be received as information. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of receiving this as information, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Councilors Rollins and Mays in opposition. Thank you. Item number 7, plain language key performance indicators. Councilor Lukes.
The public service wants an additional extension following, 3 or 4 other extensions. So I'll move that we support their request for an extension.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 8, option analysis Broadway Neighborhood Center. Councilor Rollins.
Yes, I'd like to thank the public service for this excellent work, which includes a facility overview, which includes a letter that I'll focus my remarks on in response to the motion from the Broadway Neighborhood Center. This motion was born of need following the draft budget that said we were going to look at the grants framework for the City of Winnipeg. And unlike other community centers within Winnipeg, West Broadway Neighborhood Center gets their funding of approximately $255,000 within the budget as a core operating line in a couple of different components. So as a local councillor, I was concerned that one of the community centers would be compromised. So this report lays out analysis on a different configuration. Ultimately, though, I think it's important to underline that West Broadway Neighborhood Center wants to remain a neighborhood center with their operations with respect to their board intact, and that's the letter that they have written to Executive Policy Committee. They've written, they've had a careful discussion. This isn't the first time they've been, even though they've been a community center since 1949 in the City of Winnipeg, this isn't the first time that the City of Winnipeg has sort of let them down, or had questions that called into question sort of how their budget developed over time. So roughly in 1949, they were a center, thanks to the Optimist Club of Winnipeg. In the through the
70s, and with amalgamation of the city, they became a GCWCC community center. And then about 5 years after the universal funding was born, they moved into this scenario. Why? Well, this is what we don't have on the records, but with what we know from community folks is that it was because they could draw down other source funding. So they've been somewhat of a deal, depending on how you look at it. A deal because, you know, any way you slice that GCWCC pie would mean that other, you know, grants would go up and down. You might look at it as savings between 130,000, or depending on the configuration, it moves up to about 500,000 if you moved it in-house as a leisure center. Right now, you know, there isn't any motion on the table, but it is something that I've been developing with Executive Policy Committee, and I feel that there is a commitment to look at Broadway Neighborhood Center as, you know, and make sure that they have a funding line to go forward. But this would have been the holding spot I would have had to motion something more different on their behalf. So this is what this report is, but I'm going to work on good faith commitment from our team here that it is not needed now, and receive the report as information.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rollins. The report does give some good background into the history of Broadway Neighborhood Center, so thank you to our staff for pulling that together. Okay, we'll call the question then. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 9, process improvements, community center grant renovation program. Councillor Brawadi.
The public service recommendation.
All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item 10, increase in claims settlement authorities. Councillor Brawadi.
Thank you. I'd like to move the public service recommendation.
Thank you. I'll just maybe make a comment. I don't know if anyone else has comment on that. I'll be supporting your motion, Councillor Brawadi. I think the fact that these levels of settlement haven't been increased, I think it was since 1993. Recommendation made by the city auditor in 2011. So this is a bit of, I would say, not cleanup, but a bit of update. Catch up, yeah, it is catch up. Thank you. It's an update. It's catch up on reflecting the fact that just the levels, I think, of claims have increased over the years in a substantial way, and this gives an adjustment in the authorization to settle those claims accordingly. So, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you. Item 11, Councillor Brawadi.
Thank you again. I will again be moving the public service recommendation.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Item 12, Councillor Brawadi.
Thank you, Your Worship. On this particular item, I'm going to move a further 30-day layover. I know there's still some thinking and some details, including potential funding, if we make any changes. So I'd like to lay this over for 30 days.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Item 13, Councillor Rollins.
So moved.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Item 14, remote participation in council seminars for members of council. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments on this regarding Councillor Gilroy's motion here. You know, although participation may potentially increase with the option for remote participation for these seminars, I think it's also important that there are some discussions that occur amongst councillors in the public service that are confidential in nature, and without further work on this to ensure that that is the case moving forward. As noted here in one of the whereases by Councillor Gilroy, I'm not prepared to support this at this time, and I've moved for the item to be received as information.
All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Councillor Mays opposed? Okay. Item number 15, the establishment of a tri-level agreement, intercity revitalization. Councillor Rollins.
So this motion calls on the public service to be directed to establish a tri-level agreement similar to the core area to assist the revitalization of the inner city neighborhood right around downtown. I'll just point to center plan item 4A, I believe it is, that asks to establish essentially a tri-level agreement similar to the core area initiative. And so that fundamentally, when we get to Center Plan 2050 and 4A, establishing a tri-level agreement with federal and provincial governments like the Winnipeg Core Area Initiative model to assist with Center Plan 2050 implementation, it's redundant. So I'm going to move to receive it as information, but point to another item on the agenda to say we've got this covered. As a matter of fact, we've got it covered to create a single window approach on intergovernment collaboration on housing and development in the downtown, to redevelop provincial and crown corporation-owned surface parking lots, and to develop long-term coordinated development. So it's both a core area initiative-like structure, and it's beyond that. So look at 4A, B, C, and D, and I think that it would meet with the mover's approval. So moved for information.
Move for information then. Thank you for the explanation. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item, I wonder, Councillor Wallins, if we can do 16, 17, and 18 together?
So moved.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 19. We need, no, we had a motion already from Councillor Brady at the start, right, to receive the addendum reports?
Addendums, yes.
Okay. Councillor Lukes,
Yeah, I'd
item
like
19.
I'd like to move this one. This is requesting that the Manitoba Department of Transportation and Infrastructure take a look at this request for left turn signals. So it's related to the perimeter highway, so I'll move the report.
All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 20, maybe I'll turn the chair to Councillor Lukes at this point.
Okay.
Pulling up this item, I do have an amending motion on this item. Appreciate the work our staff has done related to the secondary plan, Center Plan 2050, proposed downtown secondary plan.
Okay.
Thank you very much. The amendment is related to recommendation 3E, and that 3E be deleted and replaced. I think the motion has been distributed now, that 3E be deleted, and replaced with the following E, $46,000 to fund seasonal honorariums for major neighborhood cleanup events to assist with the cleaning of downtown area, end quote. So
Sure.
that, I will move this as amended.
So that, just to clarify, so that means it's open to anyone, not any select group, that anyone can, either apply or however we're going to be
Yeah.
allocating the honorariums,
Right,
correct?
because things
Sure.
change. You never know who might be doing that work in the future.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. So it's so moved. Councillor Lukes.
Okay, all right, so we're moving the whole secondary plan then? Or just the whole
Whole
secondary
report is
plan?
amended, yeah.
Okay, so can I just say something before we move it?
You're chair of the meeting right now.
Okay.
You sure can.
I know, but you're still the big
Roll
guy.
yourself out of order if you'd like.
Okay. I just want to put this on the record that, we've got some concerns about transportation. We've got the master transportation plan coming forward that has a lot of detail in it regarding economic development, truck routes, corridors, and such. And that's coming forward in the fall. I think that there's some transportation concerns in here that we'll be discussing later in the fall. So I just wanted to say that I'll support this plan for now, and we'll go forward and look at these transportation issues in the fall when the transportation master plan comes forward. So I just wanted to put that on the record. Okay, so Central Plan 2050, a lot of work gone into this, a lot of input, a lot of long public hearing the other day. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried.
Okay. Take the chair back then.
Okay.
Item 21, 2023 Councilors Ward Allowance Audit. Councilor Brady.
Thank you. I'll move the report.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now, I believe, Madam Clerk, do we move on to the Audit Committee, or do we move on to motions?
We can move on to motions, new business motions under EPC. before we
Okay,
deal with
suspend
that
the
one.
rules, then someone move suspension of the rules.
Suspend the
Councilor Mays moves suspension of the rules to deal with new motions, new items. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're just going to get them in order here from the clerk.
Motion 2 is for the development application process.
Okay. Motion number 2 is related to the development pre-application process, making changes there.
Jade's handing out hard copies right now, but everyone should have them in their inbox as well.
Thank you. I'll turn the chair then to Councilor Lukes again to bring forward this motion.
Right,
Thank you. I'll make a couple of comments if I may,
okay,
Madam Chair.
all right. So you're bringing forward a motion here that's not
Yeah,
on the
so-
agenda, okay.
The motion is related, in essence, it directs the public service to end the formal pre-application process for development applications and phase out any voluntary uses of the process by no later than December 31st, 2024. What we're trying to do is to find a way to ensure that we're all working together to speed up the process of applying for development and development applications. You can see the details here, whereas Winnipeg's rapid population growth in the mid-2020s, our declining vacancy rate, housing accelerated fund commitments, and the challenges of the national housing crisis all make it urgent to deliver rapid approval of qualified new housing proposals whenever possible. My office and I, we have had conversations with each of you, but we certainly had conversations as well with our city staff in planning and development related to this change. We have had conversations with those within the development community to try to find a way to make sure that we can, developers can get the answers they need, our staff can get the answers they need, but to do it in a more expeditious way. And one of the ways that came up certainly was to remove the requirement, the formal pre-application process. The second, be it resolved, is to work with applicants to complete any pre-applications currently underway, including offering an option to terminate the pre-application if the applicant wishes to do so. And you can see the rest of the details there in the recommendations or in the resolutions that I won't take time to read. But the goal is to get more housing built and get more housing built quickly. The information that our staff needs will still be part of the discussion that applicants and our staff have, so that our staff can get the information they need. And then conversely, the information that applicants need to questions they need answered from our staff will also be part of the work that needs to be done. But we're trying to eliminate the sometimes very long process that is the pre-application process and get more development built faster. That is the motion.
All right, any comments on this? All right, well, if there's no comments, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. The next motion is, I guess, the motion number 3.
Okay.
Is similarly related to development processes and trying to find ways to speed up the development processes. Often, traffic studies are required at the front end as part of a development application. And what this motion does is eliminates that requirement. And so I won't read the whereases, but therefore be it resolved, the public service be directed to accept development applications without requiring the completion of a traffic study for the following development types. A, for multi-residential development with 20 or more units in a single structure. B, for mixed-use development in which the predominant built form includes 20 or more residential units in a single structure or tower. 2, that the recommendation 1 apply to all in-progress applications. This doesn't mean that traffic studies will never be required or can never be asked for. They can be called for through the process, but it won't be basically a precondition for a development application in these specific instances.
Sure. So people can, if the councilor wanted to have a traffic study, they could request it. If the developer wants to bring his own traffic study, he could do that. Okay, all right. Are there any questions or comments? Councilor Mays?
Pleased to see, and thanks to the mayor's staff for adding in a final sentence, final phrase, perhaps, under the final whereas that talks about council being able to require traffic mitigation steps as a future condition for major as of right development. We don't have the definition of the word major here, obviously, but there will be one big rezoning hearing coming. Then a lot more development will be available as of right in the future, i.e. without any hearing. Councilor Orlikow touched on that this morning in terms of discussion of land development. So I would suggest that, yes, if it is a major to be defined development, we should require some sort of traffic study. Obviously, if you put some thousands of units into the parking lot at the St. Vital Center, that will have traffic impacts for the immediate neighborhood and for some of the major arteries that go near it. So appreciate a lot of discussion. Generally, this is reflecting what my concern was, which was we should have some ability for the area councilors to try and invoke that. How we specify that will be part of the process when we get to the much anticipated 300-person zoning hearing that we will have sometime within the year.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay.
Okay, moving now to a motion I think Councillor Mays is bringing forward related to the Downtown Capital Arts Grant.
I thought I was going to get the last two after not going with yes, this is a motion to finally open up the intake for the downtown grants process. This is a new initiative, part of the multi-year fund. We had removed funding in a previous budget around public art. This is not for works of public art, but this is for arts organization in the downtown area. There certainly have been some inquiries from Manitoba Opera, from the Winnipeg Art Gallery, perhaps from others about let's get going. They are very much in favor of this. They want to do some cost sharing. So the good news is we are moving to open applications, but the closing date would be extended to September 30th, 2024.
Okay.
And the fund amount, I believe, is 500,000
per year for the
per
next.
annum. Yeah. Okay.
I think Councillor Luke still is the chair.
Okay. All right. This is good. Get going. Okay.
Absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. I guess I should say opposed, but I don't think anyone's opposed, so carried. Okay. All right, next item. I still have the chair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bringing
Okay.
forward a motion in response to the number of fires that we are having in the city of Winnipeg still, specifically at the site of vacant derelict buildings. And vacant and derelict buildings continue to be a challenge. Too often they're the site of criminal activity. Too often they're victims of arson and places of fire. Anytime our police service has to go in, anytime bylaws has to go in, anytime fire paramedic service has to go in to a vacant and derelict building, it presents an element of danger for our staff. And so if we can reduce the number of fires that occur at these buildings, and if we can reduce the number of times that police have to go in to deal with what may be a report of criminal activity, then it's better for everybody. Recently, I had a meeting with Police Superintendent Dave Delisle and Fire Paramedic Chief Christian Schmidt, Winston Yee of our Bylaws Department, and Kelly Habichuk of Public Works. And the whole focus of the meeting was how, what's being done right now with all of the motions and all the good work that councils have brought forward to reduce vacant and derelict buildings. But what further could be done, immediately in the short term as steps to reduce the number of fires. Each one of them collectively, I should say, they said the same thing and collectively said that they would request that we as a council move right to the enhanced boarding requirement. was just, I think, a year ago, maybe a year and a bit ago, we added this level of enhanced boarding. So there's really two levels of boarding. There's the kind of, there's three, but there's the regular boarding where you board up your building, you have to use a certain thickness of plywood and a certain length of screws. The enhanced magnifies that. It's thicker plywood, it's 2x4s around the windows, it's these long screws and kind of lag bolts or whatever they are to secure fasteners. And the police and fire department has said that in instances right now where there's the enhanced boarding, those buildings are much less frequently targeted. People can't get into them. And so by jumping, this motion says primarily go right to the enhanced level of boarding becomes our new single standard for boarding. Subsequent to that, also with that, an increase in the fee structure for Schedule A inspections to include the following, and I won't read the details there, but it's a change in some of the fees. And then 3, that the vacant buildings bylaw 79/2010 be amended to increase the empty building fee from 1% of most recent assessed property value, which a vacant building is located, to 2% of the most recent assessed value of the property upon which the vacant building is located. Councillor Rollins and I worked on this to get to this 1% a while ago. I want to move it to 2% now. Just to remind everybody, in the bylaw, where a building has been assessed 1%, and if we pass this 2% now, and that building gets fixed up and addressed, those monies can flow back. And so they really serve as an incentive to see those sites invested in. And so we need to do all we can to reduce vacant and derelict buildings. We also have our stuff parallel to this, but separate from this. I've asked our city staff to be working on expedited process to take title without compensation. So right now, I know that our interim CAO along with Mr. Armbruster, Maura Gear is working on this as well to get information back on what it would take to expedite the process to take title without compensation. But that's separate from this. This is some changes primarily on the enhanced building requirement, enhanced boarding of buildings requirement.
Okay. Well, let's hope this makes some improvements. Any comments, Councilor Rowlands?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you very much to the mayor's office and to Mr. Mayor for ongoing work on this. And also to, I know that in every property and development committee, we have appeals on folks that just aren't following the Schedule A inspections and aren't doing the work that is implied. And so unfortunately, we still too often see this in appeal after the first year, the second year. And so it's good to see this escalator in costs of $500 per inspection because I know, I can't speak for the public service, but I know how difficult it is for them to appear, in front of us, having, once, twice, 3 times gone out on Schedule A inspections, more subsequent inspections depending on what they see. So this escalator is nice. There's a part of me that thinks that I hope this results in the outcomes we want, i.e. less Schedule A inspections and more people just compliant with the bylaw and compliant and using their properties in a good way, i.e. using them, seeing people live there, not vacancy. And so it's good while it's good to see this, I don't want to be back here a year from now, 2 years from now, escalating these charges. I just want this policy to work. So I'm happy to approve today, but I obviously we're focused on results.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. If there's no other comments, then all in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay.
I can take the chair back if you like.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. believe we have one more motion in this series. Councillor
Yes.
Mays has a motion, I believe.
Thank you for your patience with this. When we opened the St. Vital Park toboggan slide after a 4-year-long voyage, I did not think I would ever see one that would take as long as that. But the original costing on this running track project is from 2019, but the end is in sight, the finish line is in sight. We have gone to tender. Some good work yesterday by some city staff, Brad Erickson, Danny Tooth, Jeff Patton. Particular thanks to Brad, who I think was on vacation and called in for it, to try and get this resolved so we can award, so we can build, a narrow window to build these things because they're summertime builds. So we need $184,000 in addition to other money that's already been set aside. There's federal money in this project, there's provincial money in this project, there's school division money in this project, there's land of dedication from my office, from Councillor Allard's office. We still needed a bit more. This is a placeholder number for Councillor Allard's share of this. I'll be working to reduce that with him. He's been very supportive of this. So that is we may have to have a different number there by council, but we got to keep this moving to get this thing awarded, or we're going to lose a whole year and possibly some of the other government money, or the cost will inflate. So my thanks to city staff, including some members of the clerks who have put in some long hours on this, who asked not to be named. What you see in front of you then is Councillor Duncan steered through council the rebirth of the CIGP program. Bylaws passed at the last council. So we have the money in hand. It's just there's no time to go all the way around the horn and get another report, go through community committee on this one. So hence what you see in front of you, the money, it's not new money, it's ward money. We have the money. This is a placeholder for Allard. I will sort it out with him. I'll be in for more than this. It is in Councillor Allard's ward. Great project. He's been supportive of. End is in sight. Hope we can support this. And no new money here. Just trying to get this thing built, and you should all come to the opening, where hopefully it will not break down, because it's been 5 years on this thing, and we're almost there. So that's the motion.
Okay, that is the motion. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. I think that's the end of our motions, right? Correct. Right. On now to the Audit Committee. Councillor Bawadi.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to remove report number 1 as information and forward it to council for the communication section of the agenda.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving on now to the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Water Waste and the Environment dated June 28, 2024. Councillor Mays.
I'll move the consent agenda here. Councillor Brawadi had indicated he may have words on item 5 at council, but I believe for today he did not want that pulled, so I'll move the consent agenda here.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving on then to the addendum report, Standing Policy Committee on Public Works dated July the 3rd, 2024. Councillor Lukes.
Okay. I'd like to move this report.
All 6 items?
Oh, just wait here, hold on here. Too many things at once. Okay, so items 1 to 6. I'll pull number 1 and I'll move 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
I'll speak to 4 briefly.
Okay. So you're moving 2, 3, 5, and 6?
Correct.
Oh, sorry. 2, 3, 5, and 6.
Right.
I'll call the question on those items then. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 1, annual report on snow clearing and ice control.
Sure. So, I just wanted to thank the public service, specifically Mr. Cantor, for the report, and for some of his staff for coming up with an app that they're going to do the final testing in the next 2 snow storms, snow flurries, whenever that happens. They've, at no cost, just time, they've come up with sort of an innovative way to allow the public to monitor the sidewalks and pathways when they're cleaned. So we will be able to see in probably like a 10-minute window when a pathway or a sidewalk has been cleaned. So I think this is very exciting from an accessibility perspective. People, want to know if they're going out, if the pathways or the sidewalks will have been cleaned. And this is really, I think, a very positive thing, and they were innovative in looking at it and approaching it. So I just want to, it's a rough ride with potholes for Mr. Cantor and snow, and I just really want to commend him for his work on this. And with that, I'll move the report.
Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item number 4, speed limit increase on Reindeers Drive, Transcona Ward. I think Councillor Brody, you pulled this one?
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to speak very much in favor of the public service report and thank them for preparing it. In recent years, Reindeers has been twinned out fully all the way out to Peguis with the addition of the whole Transcona West secondary plan coming to fruition over the years. Used to be a very bad shortcut down Parallel Street there, Almy, that people used to take to get to Costco. Now that that's been severed to La Jamodier, all the indications are like the visual cues, the road construction would be that the road should be a 60-kilometer-an-hour street. I see a lot of cars. I'm doing my 50, 55, and cars are flying past me, and occasionally there has been police radar there. So I do think that, based on, percentiles, traffic engineering, and all those things, this is a good move. And it is worth pointing out as well, the Marianne Sorelli Trail now has been added along this stretch of roadway, and it is a 3.5-meter asphalt path, so there is proper AT amenities along here as well. I thought I should mention it by name. All right, so I am in support.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right. Moving on to the addendum report of the Standing Policy Committee on Property Development dated July 4th, 2024. Councillor Rollins.
I'll move 1 to 16 unless someone wants to pull something.
I'll pull 12.
Okay, so moved.
I think item 10 does not have a recommendation. We'll pull that one as well, please, okay?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Anything else?
Okay, sorry, can you just, so we're going to do 1 to 9, 11 to 16, but was someone pulling something else? Okay, with that then,
No, you.
all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried?
Okay, we'll go on to, which one did you propose?
Go to item 10 here.
Item 10. Yeah, so I'll just introduce number 10, Mr. Mayor. So we did a lot of good work, the public service did. I say we because council then passed the development agreement parameters. And what's now going to follow at EPC, is what councilors can do by right. I'm going to still occupy the space that in line with the development agreement parameters, but I'm happy to lose a motion sometimes, and this one I likely will lose. But this is a small matter between an asphaltic and concrete. Oh, sorry.
That's 12.
I'm introducing number 12.
Eloquently, but
Yeah, I will not be able to.
let's repeat that again.
Yeah, so introducing number 10 is the establishment of development fee or charge associated with the Housing Accelerator Fund. Completely different matter. This matter came through council as a referral to Property and Development from Councillor Orlico and Councillor Dobson. Councillor Dobson pointed to Property and Development that this was directing the public service to report back in 180 days with options for the establishment of development fee or charge that complies with the July 8th ruling that saw the city returning impact fees back to developers following a Court of Queen's Bench ruling, then Court of Queen's Bench, now Court of King's Bench ruling, which stated that we had the power and authority to impose a fee generally, but the bylaw lacked details on how those who paid the fee directly benefited. Therefore, it was determined it was a tax on a fee. I want to say at the time when we were doing the development agreement work, so funny these are together, Councillor Lukes and I, who make, a portion of the councillors that were that are on the development agreement parameters work, that were pointed to that work to talk to them, committed that we would do strategic infrastructure first before we would then look at impact fees. So this is not on my policy or priority or plan for this term, maybe not next term if we don't get to strategic infrastructure and where developers can develop in the city of Winnipeg. And that has a lot to do with the water and waste files and our capacity. So it's not on my priorities and plan as chair, but I serve at the pleasure of the mayor, so that can change, but it certainly isn't on my plans. And so I move to receive this as information, but it comes here with a 2-2 vote. So I would move it to receive it as information with that explanation that while I appreciate that we have a way to look and engage in impact fees lawfully, that is just not on my priority and plan. I've outlined the priorities and plan, 3 bites of an apple, looking at strategic infrastructure with my council colleague on public works, and water and waste, and that's how I'd like to move forward this term. That's enough work, and so I'm not adding this, and I don't advise council either, so to go this way. So I'm moving to receive it as information today, with thanks to Councillor Dobson and Councillor Orlikow. I appreciate they might have a different order that they want to do policy work.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Mays?
It's one of these difficult, it's somewhat developed, it somewhat isn't. I mean, for today, I'll vote with Councillor Orlikow. Let's be real, the mayor didn't vote for the development fee when he was a councillor. We're unlikely to implement it during the life of this council. I get that. I did vote for it. Councillor Orlikow kind of steered it through, to his credit. But I do share his concerns about land dedication. I've had a lot of development where I got nothing because it was all lot splitting. None of it was rezoning. I'm looking at some pretty major developments along corridors and shopping center parking lots. So I couldn't quite, I don't know what the nuance is. The mayor had indicated, I want to work with you. I want to get this resolved. Hope perhaps by next Thursday, we'll have something a little more detailed that might allay my concerns. I would switch over then, because yeah, I'd like to see what that is. I think there's good faith, but yeah, it's a concern if that source of revenue ain't what it used to be, certainly. But to see it diminished almost nothing would make doing this job very difficult, at least in terms of the park stuff. So for today, I'll vote with Councillor Orlikow, but hopefully by next week, we've got some resolution on the land dedication issue and we can receive his information.
Thank you. Don't know if by next week it would be possible to get something resolved on land dedication reserve, but I certainly am interested in that. I think for all of council, as I said, and Councillor Orlikow, to his credit, said as well, on the land dedication contribution, that's not a new fee. That wouldn't be bringing in a new fee. That's just making sure we can find a way within reason to preserve that, to ensure that that is still applied. Because, I mean, my time, 8 years as a councillor, like, you know, all other councillors, utilize that fund on a regular basis for park investment and improvements in the local neighborhood. So that is an important revenue source and an important contribution that developers do make to improve and enhance the area. So doubt that we can, you know, work with Councillor Orlikow on it and others as well, but not thinking that it'll get done in time for this month's council meeting, but yet we work over the summer. So with that, I will call the question. The motion is to receive this item as information. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councillor Mays. Okay. Moving on then to, I think we're on to the addendum report of the Standing Policy Committee of Finance.
I think we're on number 12.
12 is
Oh, I
the
apologize.
interim.
Yep, going to 12. Item number 12, subdivision rezoning 38 Inman Avenue.
So I'll just rewind and restate a bit of the introduction that I mistakenly made here. So this waives a section of the development agreement parameters on service conditioning and deletes things in favor of, I believe, an asphaltic layer to cement. And it might be the exact opposite. But the point that I'll make today in opening is that the development agreement parameters really set out that consistency of being an honest broker of what the city was going to ask developers opposite development agreements and set them out. There was a great deal of time spent on the parameters. That being said, I do think this is light. It doesn't have my support today because I'm going to continue largely, the Riel community did good work here. It's a subdivision rezoning at 38 Inman Avenue. The local councillor has a voice, absolutely can waive. I'm just going to occupy the space that good work went into the development agreement parameters, and so, but I think that Councillor Mays has a comment in terms of reverting it back to the Riel committee motion.
Councillor Mays?
Yeah, all of these are fair points. This is, it's not the end of the world either way. I'll stand by what we did at the community committee, which was to require the small developer here to pave in asphalt rather than concrete. Some very good work by Mr. Skierski from the planning department and by Rebecca Ford. Someday if I leave here, I hope somebody just reads out my supporting reasons, which are found at page 10 and 11, because that's about a summary of what I've been saying for some time here, which is the lanes are terrible. They're gravel lanes. We've done 60 of them in asphalt as cost sharing with residents. I think the idea that we don't need to touch them at all if they're gravel, but if we're going to pave them, we've got to go to concrete, just doesn't seem to hang together. We do need to do something about these lanes. This is in a kind of a weird little window, and Skierski spotted that, which is we've said no more lot splits on gravel lanes unless there's an underlying lot of record. We've said no more triplexes on gravel lanes because they're terrible. We just did that. I would hope that we will not be pressured by the federal government to say, but you can have a fourplex, because it would just make no sense. It would just be ignoring reality. So hopefully we will say, no, we can't do these fourplexes on gravel lanes. But the law as it stands right now, as the planners accurately stated, is that's what they're allowed. They wanted 6. We approved 4. It's not the end of the world if we give them concrete. I understand Councillor Rollins' position. It's also, trying to help out this small developer who may not go ahead if they can't get 6, but maybe they'll go ahead with 4 if we say, well, you just have to do your section of the lane in asphalt. This isn't the long-term solution. We can't have people randomly paving 50-foot wide or 25-foot wide sections of gravel lane like some sort of checkerboard. This happens to be the last one on the block, so I think the Public Works sort of rolled their eyes and went along with it. But as I say somewhere in here, the planning department can just not make it worse. They can't solve it. It's not their job to solve it or to find money to pave it, but surely we should be realistic that there's a problem here, and we shouldn't be quadrupling density claiming that's not going to exacerbate the problem. So for today, I'll move the community committee recommendation, which would be the entire report except they get to do the lane in asphalt, not concrete.
Okay, so just was working with the clerk here. So what is the clarifying motion here?
I thought we were just back to where the community committee was.
I thought so as well. I thought that's what.
Otherwise, yes.
Yeah, community committee, yeah.
Belabored it. And
If I can help, I think it would be a matter of section 1B, or 1, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. It's your fault with the language. So 1B1 is, it changes, and it changes.
Councillor Mays just wants to revert back to the Riel Community Committee recommendation and not go with the amendment moved by standing committee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
In that section on servicing conditions. And so it's referring to 10.1.
Yep.
Okay, you have that? Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to call the question then on Councillor Mays' Councillor Mays' amendment to this, basically, okay? Reverting back to the community committee on that specific item. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Councillor Rollins, nay. Okay. Okay, thank you. Now we move on, I believe, to the addendum report of the Standing Policy Committee on Finance and Economic Development dated July 5th, 2024, item.
Thank you. I'll move recommendation number 1.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving to addendum report of the Standing Policy Committee on Community Services dated July 5th, 2024, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move items 1 through 3.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And on to the addendum report of the Governance Committee of Council dated July 8th, 2024. 2 items. Councillor Lukes.
All right, I'd like to move both these items. Governance.
Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? I only had 1 aye out of there.
Sorry.
So
Aye.
2 ayes.
Aye,
It was a strong aye from Mays, but not enough to carry everybody.
Here, here.
So I think we got all the ayes we need, so,
Okay.
okay?
All right,
All right, motion then for consent agenda.
So moved.
Adjournment. Councillor Buwadi.
all right.
Oh, we're good? I think we got it all.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.